Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio live from Lac du Bonnet. We're here at Drifters Inn, right at the corner of Highway 11 and 313. I'm Corey Funk here with Chloe Friesen on site, and already things are starting to pick up here. There's about 3 people here in the cafe. Coffees are on, and it's great to be here in Lac du Bonnet on this beautiful Thursday morning. Heading for a beautiful day today. 10 degrees right now in Lac du Bonnet, heading for a high today of 23. Hello also to our crew in the studio back in Winnipeg right now. May McKillop is directing, as well as Abby Adiemi is our technician, and Kemini Patebo is our YouTube producer this morning. Hello, everyone on YouTube. Heather Wells is also in today with a look at news headlines. Hello.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection says fines against a Winnipeg landlord accused of illegal evictions are not severe enough. $9,000 in fines have been issued against the owner of 285 College Avenue after dozens of tenants were forced out in July. $1,000 per unit is the maximum under the law. Lisa Naylor says the province may look at increasing fines going forward. We'll hear more about that as well. Manitoba's opposition accuses the provincial government of meddling in the training of paramedics. It is an accusation the health minister denies, but the College of Paramedics has dropped a requirement for all potential trainees to take a university-level course in anatomy and physiology. We'll hear why coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
That's Heather Wells at our CBC news desk. Lots coming up this hour on the show. We're going to speak about the mayor and the reeve of Lac du Bonnet. There's Lac du Bonnet, the town, and Lac du Bonnet RM, and they're going to be coming to talk about what's been changing here in the town, how it's shifted from a mining town to trying to lean into the beauty around here and tap into tourism. Also, we're going to have a couple folks from the local wildlife association to talk about how Lac du Bonnet is figuring out new ways to get members to enjoy the outdoors. That's all coming up here, as well as some tips for Thanksgiving, how to deal with maybe complicated family situations, and maybe some cooking tips as well. That's all coming up here on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. We're live in Lac du Bonnet. Stay tuned. World Report is standing by.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Tobias Jesso Jr. for a while there was all the talk of the music industry. His album made it to pretty much every best of list when all of a sudden he stopped. He'll tell you about the hard decision to stop his artist career and how he thinks he was saved by writing with Adele.
You know, surreal, a little bit starstruck. I don't know what to do.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Hurricane Milton has been tearing through central Florida. The storm made landfall on the west coast last evening. It is bringing high winds, floods, potentially deadly storm surges and tornadoes. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor spoke to media a short while ago with this plea.
Please, please stay inside. Stay inside until we can get out there with our teams. They are all in action right now.
Close to 3 million homes and businesses have lost power across the state. Tens of thousands of people are spending the night in emergency shelters. Residents of St. Petersburg have no drinking water. Our freelance reporter Jennifer Glass is in Jacksonville.
Hurricane Milton hit the Gulf Coast of Florida with driving rain and winds of more than 200 kilometers an hour. It made landfall on Siesta Key, just south of Sarasota, not on Tampa Bay, home to 3 million, where it could have caused extensive damage. Storm chaser Jonathan Petramala.
While the Tampa Bay area didn't necessarily see that just historic storm surge we were all really, really terrified of, we did see some pretty insane flash flooding that occurred here in St. Petersburg and Tampa.
Milton has dumped historical levels of rain on Florida, and flooding is expected to last for days across the state. Hours before the hurricane hit, it spawned a series of powerful tornadoes. They caused multiple deaths, flipped cars and trailers, and damaged homes, like Robert Hates in Fort Myers.
We all started going for the hallway, didn't even make it there in time. Started doop, and I heard a piece of glass crack. and sucked the whole roof off, and I felt the thing suck me up, and I grabbed my kid and my wife and hunkered down.
The storm, which started as a Category 3, became a Category 1 as it crossed central Florida and is to move into the Atlantic Ocean today. Hurricane Milton hit in the dark of night, so the extent of the damage won't be revealed until later today. High winds toppled a construction crane in St. Petersburg and shredded the roof of Tampa Bay's baseball stadium. That was supposed to be a staging area for emergency responders with 10,000 cots inside. Now it's exposed to the elements, and they will have to find shelter elsewhere. Jennifer Glass for CBC News, Jacksonville, Florida.
The United States ambassador to the UN says conditions in the northern Gaza Strip are squalid. An estimated 400,000 people have been trapped there by the latest Israeli offensive on the Jabalia refugee camp. There are barriers to humanitarian aid, and famine is a growing problem. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is calling on Israel to address the problem.
The flow of humanitarian aid through multiple border crossings to Palestinian civilians is desperately needed and must be allowed.
She also warned Israel not to permanently expel Palestinians from Gaza or seize any territory for itself. Earlier this week, Israeli tanks and infantry attacked northern Gaza for a third time. It says the move was to prevent Hamas from regrouping. A correction to a story we brought you yesterday about the BC election on October 19. We reported the Green Party leader, Sonia Furstenau, is expected to win the riding in which she is running. In fact, polls suggest the NDP is favored to win Victoria Beacon Hill and not the Green Party. A family in the Montreal area is speaking out after their son was attacked with boiling water. They believe he was a victim of racism. The 10-year-old suffered burns on his face and upper body. A woman in her 40s has been arrested. Sarah Levitt has more.
I was walking quietly, this 10-year-old boy whispers, timidly, recounting what happened last week. He says he took a shortcut with friends through a property on his way home from school. A woman came out, he says, and poured a pot of boiling water on me. CBC News isn't naming the boy as a minor who was a victim of violence. The boy's injuries still vividly evident. The skin on his right cheek has peeled away, leaving a circle of raw pink against his dark skin. His upper body is wrapped in bandages. Mélanie Mercil is with Longueuil Police.
We arrested a woman in her 40s. She could face the charges of assault, causing bodily harm, and armed assault.
The woman was released on a promise to appear in court. The boy's father alleges the woman said his son had been knocking on her door for the past 3 years. Impossible, Tewa Pierre Seni says. The family has only been in the neighborhood since January. I believe racism was involved, Seni says. She didn't go after the white kids, she targeted my black child. It hurts, the boy says, and I'm angry. His family says he'll forever be left with scars, a daily reminder of an attack they'd sooner wish to forget. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Longueuil, Quebec.
Today in Laos, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is meeting with like-minded partners, other countries who do business with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and who have similar security concerns about China. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovic is traveling with the Prime Minister.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure it is to sit down amongst friends here.
Sitting inside a cafe in the capital, Vientiane, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was joined by his counterparts from Australia and New Zealand for a rare trilateral meeting that lasted just under an hour.
We've been leaning in on so many of the challenges, whether it's cyber or various geopolitical conflicts.
One of the conflicts Trudeau says they're working closely on is the escalating situation in the Middle East. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
We together have issued statements reflecting those common values which are there, calling for de-escalation.
All three leaders used a photo op at the beginning of the meeting to reiterate their shared position. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon.
We see a world that I think is moving from rules to power.
Another shared interest, combating threats from China, a country blamed for persistent interference activities directed at all three countries. None of the leaders mentioned China by name in front of cameras. But behind closed doors, a senior government official speaking on background says Beijing was indeed discussed. Trudeau doesn't have a bilateral meeting scheduled with the Chinese government, but may have a run-in with China's premier, who's also attending the Association of Southeast Asian Nations summit. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Vientiane, Laos.
China's trade tensions with the European Union could signal what is coming for Canada. On Friday, China imposed new provisional tariffs on European brandy. France says that is retaliation for EU tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Canada imposed its own tariff and could face the same backlash. Lisa Xing reports.
At a bar in Shanghai, owner Ting Liang says a hike in brandy prices might mean a change to the booze she stocks.
So we don't want to charge people more. I don't think we can keep on using a very expensive brandy.
China has imposed provisional tariffs of up to 39% on European brandy imports, namely affecting French cognac. France is one of the countries that supported the EU imposing a similar tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. The retaliatory strike is unsurprising, says Nicholas Lamp, an international trade law professor at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Well, there's a long tradition in trade to hit industries which are very visible, but which are also industries which don't have a big economic impact in your own country.
Lamp says Canada needs to take note because there could be a big impact on other industries soon. Earlier this month, the federal government's 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs took effect, about twice as much as the European Union's.
I have no doubt that there will be a response from China. And it's actually amazing how measured the response from China has been so far. It has to hit back in order to essentially keep its bargaining chips.
Beijing has opened an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola, its exports to China last year worth $5 billion, giving industries and Ottawa pause about how much an escalating trade war would cost. Lisa Xing, CBC News, Toronto.
And before we go, a South Korean has just been awarded this year's Nobel Prize for Literature. Han Kang is being honored for what the committee calls her intense poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. You can also listen to us live every morning on the CBC News app. Just tap on the local icon. I'm Marcia Young.
What do you love about Lac du Bonny?
I love the people. If you leave, you always come back. I've left about 3 times, just for different reasons, schooling and closer to hospitals and shopping centers. But I always come back here. I've had like 5 homes here. And yeah, I love Lac du Bonny. It's beautiful. My name is Geraldine Bukes, and I work at Drifters. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC.
You sure are. Here we're at live at Drifters Inn, right at the corner of Highway 11 and 13 here in Lac du Bonny, and it is a beautiful place here. The leaves are yellow. We were down at the lake yesterday, or the river, the Winnipeg River. That's where we're on right now. Looks like a lake, though. It's pretty deceiving, and the people here are just amazing so far. We're going to meet a lot of them throughout the show today. I'm Corey Funk here with Chloe Friesen live at Drifters, which is getting very busy right now. And this hour on the show, we're going to meet a bunch of people from the area. We're going to have the mayor and the reeve of Lac du Bonny both on later this hour on the show. We've also got a couple folks from the Wildlife Association who are going to join us to talk about how they're getting folks outdoors in the community here in Lac du Bonny. That and some Thanksgiving tips as well coming up here on Information Radio. Time now is 6:11. Let's check into news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Winnipeg tenant who went through an ordeal over asbestos testing during renovations at her rented home wants you to know the risks. Laura Chase was worried after conflicting test results at her home as she was getting ready for renovations. Her property manager got negative results for asbestos, but then she did her own testing, which came out positive. Asbestos is a carcinogenic, and if inhaled, it can cause fatal illnesses. We'll hear more on this story. As well, the manager of a Winnipeg knife store welcomes a bill from the Manitoba government to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons like machetes and swords. Logan Blade at Cutting Edge Cutlery says it's a good plan and will make the community safer. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
6:12 right now. Let's check in with the weather today, which is looking very not October-ish today, isn't it, Abby?
Good morning, Corey. How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's gorgeous here in Lac du Bonnet. It was warm yesterday. It looks like it's going to be warm again today, hey?
Oh yeah, and it will be a warm one, though cloudy. I would say it's like one of the last stretches of the pretty decent weather we're going to get for now, because it's going to be mostly cloudy across the province. We'll see highs ranging from 9 in Churchill to 25 in the Steinbach and Morris area. Currently, Winnipeg, we are at 13. Partly cloudy conditions we're seeing outside. Today will stay mainly cloudy. We're going to see light breeze peak up this afternoon, and then our highs for Winnipeg would be around 25, which is warmer than the usual normal for this time of the year, which is 12 degrees. And tonight, that cloudy conditions will continue with breezy skies. In other regions, the same. We're seeing 4 in Thompson, 11 in 3 in Churchill, and then down south, we're seeing temperatures hover near 8 degrees. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at, we are at 13, warming up to a high of 25.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
We also have Chloe Friesen here live on location here at Drifters, and through the magic of technology, she's able to keep an eye on the commute as well. What's going on out there?
Good morning, Okay, we're looking at some road work. We got westbound Manitoba Avenue between Sergeant Tommy Prince and the railroad tracks there. The curb lane is closed for road work. As well, westbound Redwood between Battery and Artillery. The curb lane is also closed for road work. So just watch out for those issues, and if there's anything else, you can give our commuter line a call. The lovely folks in Studio 15 back in Winnipeg will answer those calls. 204-788-3093.
I love doing these remote shows. We're here live at Drifters Inn in Lac du Bonnet, and you just never know the kind of folks who are going to pop by, and we love to bring as many of them on air as possible. We got a couple of folks lined up here from the Wildlife Association, so stay tuned for that. But right now, we have Janice Leroux, who's come into Drifters this morning. She's with the Lac du Bonnet and District Charitable Foundation. She's a board member. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning. How are you today?
Good. So I'm curious. I know Manitobans are not notorious, famous for their generosity. You hear about Steinbach a lot, but what's it like here in Lac du Bonnet?
Well, they're very generous here in Lac du Bonnet as well. So as a member of the Lac du Bonnet Foundation, we operate very much like the Winnipeg Foundation. We raise monies and we distribute grants, bursaries, scholarships to our community and surrounding area. And this is how generous they are here in the little town of Lac du Bonnet. We just reached the $1 million milestone point of our endowment funds.
Really?
And so what that means is that we can even give out more grants and monies to our community. It's just it's exciting for us.
So can you give us some kind of tangible examples of the kind of the different kind of things that the organization's made here in Lac du Bonnet?
Well, we're sitting right here and I see the Lac du Bonnet Wildlife Association, and they're going to be talking about the Outdoor Education Center, and they're going to be talking about the ponds. Well, we supported them. We've supported the arena. We've supported the community center. There's a medicine garden at the high school. If you go by there, we've supported that. We've supported students through scholarships and bursaries. We're here to support.
And what do you love? How long have you lived in Lac du Bonnet for now?
Oh, I've been here since 2003.
Okay. And I actually got to ask before we move on, because I've heard Lac du Bonnet and Lac du Bonnet. Is it what do you call it?
Lac du Bonnet.
Okay. I know. There's it's not a tension over it, but I know there's two ways to say it.
Lac du Bonnet.
Lac du Bonnet is what you say. And what do you love about living here in Lac du Bonnet?
Oh, just like someone said previously, I think it's really the people. So I'm in the education system. I used to be in the schools here, and I have to say that I've had a lot of great communications with parents, with students. People here really care about their community, and I think you're going to hear that, like you've been hearing it throughout the week.
It's a
and you're going
theme.
to hear it again today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Janice, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
That's Janice LaRue. She is with the Lactobonian District Charitable Foundation. Right now, it is 6:16 right now, and we're just doing a little chair switcheroo here this morning because we've got a couple folks joining us now from the Wildlife Association, as you heard, as promised. So one thing that hits you when you come to Lactoboni is just how gorgeous it is here. It's kind of, if you want to picture, it's kind of where the prairies meets the Shield a little bit, right? You can tell like there's beautiful open areas, but then also there's granite and rivers, and it's just gorgeous here. And also that means lots of wildlife as well. And my next guests are deeply passionate about conserving the community's wildlife, as well as encouraging their members to enjoy the outdoors. So Dennis McGuffin is with us, and he's the angling director of the Lactoboni Wildlife Association. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Also, we have Stefan Bourdelik, is the events and education coordinator of the Lactoboni Wildlife Association. Hello.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
So I want to start with you here, Dennis. So just tell me a little bit about the Wildlife Association and the work it does.
All right. Well, the association is a nonprofit organization that strives to bring together community and an appreciation and conservation of our wildlife and fisheries, while uniting the community in a bond of fellowship and education of our natural resources. We have various projects on the go throughout the year. One of the biggest things that we have while going right now is our Outdoor Education Center, which is a series of shooting ranges as well as a education building where we hope to teach various courses about the outdoors.
So how new is that center?
Pardon me?
How new is that education center?
Well, it's been in the planning for about 10 years
Okay.
now. And we just opened up in April of this year.
Okay.
A lot of construction taking place through the last several years, and we're still finishing off the education building itself. And but we opened on April 15th of this year.
Okay.
And we'll be running until the end of November, and then opening up again next April.
That's really exciting. So, Stefan, as the education coordinator, what difference have you noticed it's made for people in the community?
It's a place where they can actually come and shoot safely instead of going out to a gravel pit and getting hurt by any ricocheting fragments or anything like that. This way, there's a safe way to do it. And also we can do some education on shooting safely, and also we hold events like trap shooting, and we have trap shooting every Tuesday night, which is going pretty good.
And for people who don't know about trap shooting, what is that?
So trap shooting is where you use a shotgun and a target load, and then you try and hit a little 4-inch disc that's being
the pull.
Shot out. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got to try and hit it, and so it's competition between all the shooters to see who could be the best shot.
How good are you?
How good am I?
I see. Dennis is saying really good. Okay, apparently. Okay.
I don't know. I'm.
He's humble.
I still need help. But we do have seminars for people to learn how to shoot that. So we bring on seminars every year, and then they can learn how to shoot trap.
I know fishing is also a really big thing around here too. We just heard Janice talk about the trout ponds.
Right.
Tell us about those.
Right. So the trout ponds are just north of us here, not even a kilometer down the road from Drifters. And the trout ponds were originally created when they were building the dams here and digging out the clay for the dikes for the dams. And so that's part of the history of Lactoboni. But as of 2016, the Wildlife Association did an upgrade of the ponds and a lot of development there, along with an interpretive trail. We spent about $230,000 on the development.
Oh, wow.
And in the last 4 or 5 years, we put another about $60,000 in to make the area completely barrier-free. We have fishing pads there and docks that are completely wheelchair accessible, and along with the interpretive trail that people can get out and touch base with nature. It doesn't matter if you're a fisherman or if you're a bird watcher or a dog walker, a hiker, anything. It offers something for everybody.
What's the hopes with this? I know, for a long time, Lactobani historically has been kind of a mining community, but it seems like recently, I know we've chatted, we're going to have the mayor and the Reeve on later on. It seems like you're kind of leading into the environment a little bit more, trying to tap into maybe more tourism as well. These changes, is this for the community, but also to hopefully attract more tourists?
Well, I think the Lactobani area has always been a strong outdoor area. Everything from float plane base to flying to the fishing camps to all the cottage owners out here. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful spot. It's sort of one of those hidden gems that people don't really know a whole lot about. And we're just a short ways from the city, and a fantastic lake, a fantastic river here, the Winnipeg River, and great for fishing, great for hiking, great for sightseeing, ski trails in the area. There's something for everybody to do out here.
That's great. And before I let you go here, Stefan, I know there's also you work with youth as well, the Wildlife Association. You have something called the Real Solutions for Youth program. Can you tell me about that?
So that's a program that we do every summer, but that's basically Dennis's baby.
Well, Dennis, go ahead then. Yeah.
Well, it's not my baby. It's several people. But what the Real Solutions for Youth is every year we bring out a couple of classes from the local elementary school and do a day of instruction and fishing with them down at the town dock in town in Lactobani here. And at the end of the day, each of them goes home with a new fishing rod and reel that they can take with them to practice what they learned.
Amazing.
And just to promote angling in the area. So it's a great day, a lot of fun. One of the other very interesting things we do is we bring the kids out every year to help us stock the trout ponds.
Amazing.
When the fish come from the hatchery, they get to get them out of the truck and deliver them down to the water.
Oh, great.
And that's a huge event for them.
Oh, that sounds like lots of fun. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thanks for the warm welcome here to Lactobani.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That is Dennis McGuffin and Stefan Bordelik. They're with the Lactobani Wildlife Association.
Ever hear a really good radio show and fall in love right away? Fall in love at first listen with the CBC Listen app. Find CBC radio shows like As It Happens and Now or Never and stream them anytime, anywhere for free. Download CBC Listen today.
Well, 6:23 right now. We are live at Drifters Inn here in Lactobani, and it's already getting pretty busy in here. I think there's just about a dozen folks already coming in. This is the place to be on a Thursday morning here in Lactobani. Well, looking ahead, Thanksgiving is ahead of us here. Whether you're on the hook to bring pumpkin pie or hosting your whole family for a Thanksgiving feast, there are plenty of opportunities to put your own creative twist on seasonal classics. We've actually got a chef and cookbook author here to help you out, and joining me now is Raquel Fox, author of Dining in Paradise. Good morning.
Hi, me.
So, what do you think of the classic Thanksgiving feast?
Well, you know, being a chef from the Caribbean, we always say that our Sunday dinners are just a rehearsal for the big day, which is Thanksgiving. So that being said, you've got to have the classics. We love having a succulent turkey. We love having a glazed ham with some mashed potatoes and gravy and green bean casserole, the whole nine. But as a chef, I love adding alternatives to keep it interesting, you know, and as a wow factor for your guests. Every time they come, it's going to be something that's going to be really memorable.
So, what's your move then? So, what's your? You must have some kind of twist on the Thanksgiving dish.
So, for a twist on the protein, I've had Thanksgiving where I've roasted a duck instead. So I have this amazing glaze with quince. It's that fruit that we celebrate during Thanksgiving. It has some tartness with some floral aroma. So it's a quince and balsamic glaze. So the duck is not too sweet. It's a bit slightly sweet and tangy with crispy skin absolutely delectable. As I mentioned, I love a glazed ham. There have been times where I've even had a very elegant pork tenderloin with apricot glaze on the table. And I always say to people that your sides need to be just as mouth-watering and as spectacular as your protein. So, we need to put some effort into our sides as well. Everyone loves the classic, green bean casserole, but why not saute them and keep your green beans a bit al dente where it has all the nutrients in them? Incorporate some caramelized or pickled red onions, some pecans. And I know that one showstopper on my table is always my asparagus and sweet potato salad with white chocolate vinaigrette. I'm telling you, you will go back again and again.
I just want to order that for breakfast now. That sounds great. Well, Raquel, this sounds amazing. These are really helpful tips. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. That's Raquel Fox. She's a chef and author of Dining in Paradise. You can find some of her recipes at Island Girl Foods. That's GURL, girlfoods.com. That's girl, of course, with a U. Well, 6:27 right now. We are live at Drifters Inn here in Lac du Bonny. And I actually have a guest here with us who's just stopped by the cafe. You're going to hear on Radio Noon. Her name is Donna Basil. She's a local author, and so you'll hear all about her work as an author later on Radio Noon today. But I want to have her on because, Donna, I think you and I may have been the only people yesterday, unless you know of others, who took a dip in the Winnipeg River yesterday.
Yes.
Yes,
I did.
Are you an avid swimmer then?
Yes.
And why do you love to swim so much in the Winnipeg River?
I like it when it's cold because I'm old and I have arthritis and it kind of numbs everything, so you feel really great when you're in the water.
Okay. Now, is this a common thing for folks in Lac du Bonny to take a dip on a cold October day? Yeah.
Not too many.
So you don't see other people swimming.
I didn't see anybody yesterday.
Okay.
No.
Well, what's interesting about the Winnipeg River is it looks like a lake, right? But is there a pretty strong current in it?
Not where the town is. No.
Okay, so that's good. That's what I was a little bit nervous. I took a dip yesterday, and I was like, this is a river. I'm a little bit nervous about getting pulled. So that's not too bad.
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you lived in Lac du Bonny for?
Well, I lived here since before 1980.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you love about the area?
Well, I like the river. I love the swimming, and I grew up in the White Shell at West Hawk Lake, so the boreal is kind of my territory. Like I identify as a boreal writer, which is a kind of unique niche to have because there aren't that many people who are actually living in the boreal who write about the boreal, and because it's kind of out in the boonies, and
right. But that's your inspiration.
That's
comes from
my
the boreal.
thing. Yeah, and all my stories are set in the boreal. So
that's wonderful.
There are a lot of wonderful stories. But growing up in the White Shell, like canoeing, cross country skiing, camping, snowshoeing, all of those things were really part of my childhood. And like when we were 12 years old, I was 12 years old. A bunch of us kids. Nobody would allow this nowadays. We went out in the bush and built a little log cabin. Like, who allows chainsaws and 12-year-olds to come?
I love that. That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your work as an author on Radio Noon. I know you just got published in a local in a local anthology as well. So looking forward to hearing about that on Radio Noon. That's Donna Basil.
Yes.
And she lives here in Lac du Bonny, and you can hear her this afternoon on Radio Noon.
I just want to say one more thing. We have an awesome arts council here.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and very great art scene as well, which I'm looking forward to talking about a bit more. Yes. I was at the open mic yesterday, and I'll talk a little bit more later in the show. Thank you very much, Donna.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
That's Donna Basil. And still to come here on Radio Noon, we're live in Lac du Bonny. We're going to have the mayor and the Reeve on Radio Noon, on Information Radio. We're going to have the mayor and the Reeve on the show. We're also getting some tips on how to navigate some tenants' Thanksgiving family situations. That's all coming up right here after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 11 degrees. We're going to be warm just like we were yesterday, but the sun will not be as visible because it'll be mostly cloudy. A high today of 25. The Manitoba government has introduced a bill to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons like machetes and swords. It is welcome news for the manager of a Winnipeg store that sells knives and cutlery. Logan Blade says cutting-edge cutlery already securely stores long-bladed knives and vets its buyers. But he says there might be some growing pains for those who aren't already doing that.
Too many stores, local department stores, dollar stores, unfortunately just have them out in the open, and there is nobody supervising the sale of them whatsoever.
The bill calls for retailers to store long-bladed weapons to prevent people from accessing them without help and to prohibit sales to minors, as well as requiring ID. A Winnipeg tenant is calling on Manitoba to bring in licensing of companies offering asbestos testing. Laura Chase became worried during some renovations to her rented home. Her property manager got negative results for asbestos, but then when she got her own testing done, it came back positive.
Clearly, the current situation is unsafe. It was unsafe in my case, and the fact that there's so little accountability because there is no license. A person can't lose a license that they don't have in the first place.
This year, BC became Canada's first province requiring licensing of employers doing asbestos abatement work. Chase says Manitoba should do the same. Asbestos is a carcinogenic substance widely used in building products for homes built before 1990. The province says it is in full support of a change to make it easier to become a paramedic in Manitoba. The College of Paramedics says it no longer requires prospective trainees to take a university-level course in anatomy and physiology before applying. The requirement was just put in place last year. The college says it was preventing interested applicants from coming forward. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera applauds the change.
I want every kid who grows up looking at paramedics in their communities and says, I want to be a paramedic one day. I want that kid to know that their path is accessible. I want them to know that there is a place for them, a spot for them, that they can join our healthcare team as a paramedic.
One of 3 schools that trains paramedics says applications dropped from an average of more than 100 to just 9 last year. The number rebounded to more than 60 this year when the anatomy and physiology prerequisite was lifted. Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection says fines against a Winnipeg landlord accused of illegal evictions aren't severe enough. $9,000 in fines have been issued to the owner of 285 College Avenue after dozens of tenants were forced out in July. $1,000 per unit is the maximum under the law. Lisa Naylor says one challenge has been finding tenants willing to take part in the province's investigation. 9 tenants so far are part of it.
If there's any tenants listening today that at this late time would like to have their voice heard and to participate in the investigation that may have previously chosen not to, we would welcome that.
Naylor says the province may look at increasing fines going forward. Hurricane Milton made landfall last night along Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm, bringing winds of 165 kilometers an hour. The storm is now weakened to a Category 1, but local police report some deaths, although they have not confirmed the number. You can hear the latest on what's happening in Florida, as well as other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Artificial intelligence is being put in charge of security in some Winnipeg venues. Canada Life Centre is replacing metal detectors with AI-based security screening at all entrances. Princess Auto Stadium is also using AI scanners at their gates. Connor Healy is an authority on security technology. He says AI scanners trade security for convenience.
Categorically, metal detectors are better at finding weapons. Period. The pitch that Evolve makes is not that it's better at finding weapons, but that it's better, they claim, at ignoring things that aren't weapons.
Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre did a pilot project this summer using AI screening at emergency entrances, although it won't say if it was a success. Well, speaking of success, nothing like starting a new season with a big win.
Buries it to make it 5-0.
What a release.
Kyle Connor in the second period as the Winnipeg Jets shut out the Edmonton Oilers 6-0. It was a record night for the Jets forward, scoring now in 7 straight season openers. And it was Connor Hellebuck's 38th career shutout, blocking 30 shots. When he was asked about Kyle Connor's record night,
pretty fun to watch, isn't it? I get to skate with him all summer, so maybe I prime him up for it. I don't know.
Also scoring for Winnipeg, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, Dylan Sandberg, Connor, as we mentioned, and Mark Scheifele. Winnipeg now heads home for the season home opener tomorrow night against Chicago. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I was watching the game here at Drifters last night in the lounge, and it was lit. That third period, it was just like goal after goal. Oh,
How
man.
fun.
It was so fun. Yeah, no, it was. It's very encouraging.
Was
So
there lots
hopefully
of
that sets
cheering
the
going
tone.
on?
Oh, yeah. It was all of a sudden just like, well, yeah, because you're like not even done cheering when the next goal happened. And you're like,
Amazing.
oh, I guess we're
There
just
was
cheering
one
some more now.
20 seconds apart, right?
Yeah. It was that. I was like, you're just like, you're all looking at your high five, and then all of a sudden you look again. You're like, wait, what just happened? It was amazing. Have you ever been to Lactabani, Heather?
I have.
It's gorgeous out here, hey?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I actually, my grandparents once lived in Pointe du Bois, so I've been in that area. It's
nice.
beautiful.
Oh, I love it, especially in the fall. It is gorgeous.
Lots of colors.
Lots of colors. Well, thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
That is Heather Wells at our CBC News Desk. We are live here at Drifters Inn, on right at the northern tip of Lactabani. If you're wondering where that is, it's about just over 100 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg, or as the Mayor Aree would say, one large cup of coffee from Winnipeg. And we are here in the breakfast area, and there's about a dozen folks here already here. It's the place to be for breakfast, we hear here in Lactabani, and we're really grateful to the folks who had us out here who have us out here. It's been an amazing welcome we've had here so far. Let's take a look at your weather now with Abby Adiemi. It looks like we're in for a lovely fall day once again.
Yeah, lovely fall day. It's going to be mostly cloudy across the province. Currently, Winnipeg at 13. Partly cloudy conditions we're seeing outside. Today remains mostly cloudy, and then we'll see that light breeze peak up sometime this afternoon. In Winnipeg, we will be warming up to a high of 25, which is warmer than our normal for this time of the year. And if we go up north, Thompson at 4 heading to a high of 11. Churchill at 3 heading to a high of 9. Brandon is at 6 heading to a high of 21. Dauphin at 9, high 28. Gimli 8, high 22. Steinbach high of 25, currently at 9 degrees. And Morris at 8 degrees heading to a high of 25. In summary, we're just going to see more like mostly cloudy conditions from the northern part of the province all the way down to the south, though the temperatures for down south will be warmer around 25 degrees.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
And if you're wondering how the commute's going, it seems to be going all right so far. But if you see something going on, walking, biking, driving, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093. Well, Crystal-Lee Ramakan is here with the Business Report. Hello there.
Hey, good morning, Corey.
So let's start with real estate this morning. So you have the latest outlook for the country. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so Canada's sluggish housing markets are in recovery mode following the third straight interest rate cut from the Bank of Canada. So that's according to a new report from Royal LePage, and it predicts further rate decreases will set the stage for an early spring market. Now, looking back on the third quarter of this year, the national aggregate home price rose slightly, 1.6% compared to last year, but it is still at $815,000. Now, major markets in the prairies continue to show some resilience and strength as tight supply pushed prices up. And Phil Soper is the CEO of Royal LePage, and he says interest rate cuts are making mortgage renewals easier on people, but they're also keeping first-time home buyers on the sidelines.
They have been trained, if you will, to wait and reap the benefit. And all the time, the underlying home prices are essentially flat. So waiting carries no penalty for them. And I believe they'll continue to wait until there is an unleashing of this building demand for housing and prices start rising at a point where they erase the benefits of waiting.
But Royal LePage did see sales volumes start to pick up last month, and it expects home prices to remain stable for the rest of the year.
Next up, you have an update on a big corner store deal we've been talking about for the last couple months.
Yes, so Alimentation Couche-Tard, that's the convenience store giant behind Circle K, is not giving up its hope of taking over the Japanese owner of its international rival 7-Eleven. So 7&I Holdings says it has received a revised proposal from the Quebec-based business, and there are reports that the new bid values the company at $47 billion now. That's U.S., and that's a 22% increase from the offer in August. Now, the Japanese company had said the earlier bid grossly undervalued the potential of its convenience store business and did not fully address regulatory concerns. So Couche-Tard operates across 31 countries with more than 16,000 stores. And, there would be many benefits to acquiring 7&I. A successful deal could add 85,000 stores to its network. And 7&I also owns supermarkets, food producers, household goods retailers, and even financial services companies. But, Corey, analysts say regulatory approvals may be hard to get as competition concerns swirl across many global markets.
How are the markets looking this morning?
In Europe, markets are slightly lower as investors await the latest U.S. inflation data. Germany is down, the UK is down, France is down. In Asia, markets are higher following gains on Wall Street that saw the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones reach new records as investors shrugged off geopolitical concerns. Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong are all up. Oil is up 96 cents to $74.20 U.S. per barrel. Gold is up $4.40 to $2,612.10 U.S. per ounce. And the dollar is down just over 1/10 cent to 72.8 cents U.S.
Thanks a lot, Krista Lee.
Okay, thanks, Corey.
That's Krista Lee Ramlakan with your business report. Drifters in, and I see the mayor and the Reeve have already drifted into the restaurant here. We have them coming up right away. But first, here on the show, Thanksgiving dinner is meant for family, gratitude, and good food, and yet it can also be a recipe for conversations that veer into politics or deeply personal questions. And joining us now with advice on navigating these tricky moments is Jillian Roberts. She's a professor of educational psychology at the University of Victoria. She's also a psychologist and author specializing in family relationships, communication, and cultural tensions. Hello there.
Hello.
So why is it that, family dinners like Thanksgiving often just get so darn tense?
Well, I think people go into these events with really high expectations, wanting that sort of perfect Hallmark sort of movie event. And so the stakes are high for a lot of families. And then you put a little bit of alcohol in there, and I think you've got a recipe for danger.
So why do topics like politics or religion tend to trigger these disagreements at the table?
Well, I think these are core to people's identity. They're core values. And from a person's perspective, it's their genuine, authentic belief about how to create change, how to make the world, their country, a better place. And so when you encounter someone who has differing views, it's almost like they are canceling out your views. Your views are not validated. And that can cut to the quick for many people and trigger an emotional reaction.
So what are some of your tips for avoiding awkward or heated discussions at the Thanksgiving table?
Well, I think that the host or hostess can create some boundaries in advance. I think when the email goes out with the invitation, I think it's reasonable, especially if your family is one to have those heated debates, to say, you know what, for this holiday, I'm really asking everyone leave their politics at the door. I think it's reasonable to ask that, and I think you can, couch it in terms of, you all mean so much to me, and I want this to be a really joyful event, and if we stay clear of those topics, I'm really sure we're going to have a much, much better experience than maybe we've had in the past.
For some, maybe that's like the only time your family gets together, and maybe there's some, unfinished business. Could family gatherings actually be a good time to address those sensitive topics? And if so, how can we keep things kind of calm and, and respectful?
Well, to be honest, I don't think Thanksgiving dinner is the time to bring up the family will or how you're going to divide Mom's jewelry collection. I don't think it's a good time. I think we should remember what Thanksgiving is for, and it's for counting our blessings, coming together in community, breaking bread together. It's not for those awkward conversations. Those awkward and challenging conversations should have a time of their own. And if you think about it, if it were to go sideways, really sideways, it would tarnish Thanksgiving, and it may be more challenging to bring people together in the future. So I really don't think it's the time to have really difficult conversations.
Well, Jillian, thanks for your time this morning, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Jillian Roberts is a psychologist, author, and speaker specializing in family communication and cultural tensions. 6:47 right now. We are live here at Drifters Inn in Lac du Bonny, and we are joined by two of the area's leaders here. Lac du Bonny political leaders have joined forces recently to help improve their community. Ken Lodge is the mayor of Lac du Bonny, and Lauren Schinkel is the reeve. And the two have formed this collaborative partnership towards some big goals for their part of our province, which hasn't historically always necessarily been the case. And the hard work appears to be paying off. Mayor Ken Lodge and Reeve Lauren Schinkel have joined us here at Drifters, talk about some big developments in the area as well as some hopes for the future of this community. Hello there, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Mayor Lodge, I want to start with you. So what are some of the projects you two have worked on together lately?
Well, lately we've been working on a project to try to get water out into the rural areas of our community here. That we've been trucking water out to all of these residences before, and we're trying to get some water lines into the water, just like we've seen throughout the province, to ensure that all of our constituents and citizens and friends and neighbors, in fact, have potable water. We've also worked on the construction of a personal care home here in Lac du Bonny. We've been working towards that. We haven't started construction yet, but it's slated to start construction this fall. And we're talking about, and actually working on physically, a new development plan for our region to ensure that in the decades to come, we'll be well situated for advancement both commercially and as far as residential.
People might be surprised about the water situation. I know even here at Drifters, I'm staying here at Drifters Inn, and what you see by your tap in the bathroom, say don't drink the water. There's a special filtered tap right beside there because it says there's been a boil water advisory in effect since 2011. So why is that the case?
I'll leave that to Lauren to answer because he has all the detail on that.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Well, I think, well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity here, and thank you for visiting our great region and community. Yeah. We have 27 co-ops, water co-ops in our area that we know of. There's I know certainly there's more that aren't registered with the Office of the Drinking Water, so we know how precious a commodity water is. Some 20 years ago, we had a regional water plant built here that was developed for that purpose. Unfortunately, we can't change the history, but the mayor and I and our councils are collectively working to change the future of the region. The mayor mentioned that many residents in our rural area specifically haul water, potable water, and I think that you've explained that don't drink the water. It shouldn't be like that, so we're trying to change the future in that regard and, take advantage of a very rare commodity.
I know there's also a lot of changes to business here. I know you've been working together to bring a business called Lake Life Power Sports to the community. Tell me a little bit about that there, Reeve.
Well, we had the landowner approach both councils last year, or actually late last fall, and indicated that he had a proposal. And of course, with no water and sewer there, that was the primary issue. So both councils banded together to assist with that significant problem. We ended up in a situation where we cost shared that. We now have a tax sharing agreement, and we're hoping that that's going to spur development, further development on that piece of property. I know that there's interest certainly from hotel, as well as we've had discussions with the landowner in regards to other opportunities there. So we felt that economically it was the most viable thing to do for the region and spur that development. And it's a showcase when you drive into town now. They've done an excellent job with that specific piece of property in the dealership, Lake Light Power Sports.
I'm curious where the area's economy is heading. I'll start with you, Mayor Lodge. I know historically this is kind of a mining town way back, but where's Lac du Bonny's economy heading? Is it? I mean, still it is to a certain degree a mining town as well. But
certainly, I think to a certain extent it's in a transition right now. We've moved from basically forestry, mining, as well as trucking out here. There's been a lot of that over the decades, but the whole economy has changed somewhat. We've moved much more towards more of a recreational environment. That being said, we're still a working community. People here still work at the mine. We also have the Canadian Nuclear Laboratory site that they're decommissioning just nearby. As well, we still have a strong presence in Manitoba conservation. We have an airport that has a lot of commercial development ongoing there. So we're largely, I would not say, diversifying. We're looking at avenues that perhaps weren't there in the past, but just out of economic necessity, we have to look at new options. And obviously, as you can see when you're out here, there is still a lot of people that are living and working out here. It's not a retirement community per se, but that is a portion of how we live out here. We do have a large number of seasonal residents, as well as retired people who are permanent residents out here. So we try to meet the needs of all of those people. So consequently, we're looking at, again, one of the big things is to get a personal care home built here, because potentially that's 100 jobs. And we have a lot of people out here that don't really want to move away from their community. So, I mean, I know that's probably not the best overall answer, but in all areas of our region, all the types of work are in fact expanding. We no longer have, say, as many small family farms, but we have a number of larger farms now that have incorporated those farms as they've gotten sold. So farming is still huge out here. Forestry is declined somewhat because there's no pulp and paper mill up in Pine Falls anymore. But nonetheless, there's still a good section out here of people working privately that are still working and hauling wood for, actual developmental purposes where they would cut lumber and stuff like that. The mines themselves are looking at creating a new mill out at Tanko Mine, which is owned by Sinomine, and their intent is to share that expanded milling facility with several other mines that are planned to be open in the area that are primarily at this point for lithium.
Right. Yeah, there's newish lithium mine nearby as well. That's right. And for yourself, Reeve Lauren, like what are you? Sorry, Reeve, what have you noticed about in terms of the demographic changes in the area, particularly since the pandemic? Do you find more people moving out here and working remote, or what have you noticed over the years?
Well, we definitely had a lot of change in our municipality. We've had significant growth. We've had over 185 homes built since COVID, and I'm talking, people moving out here and commuting and working. I mean, we're only one good cup of coffee away from the city of Winnipeg, and give you enough time to plan your day and clear your head. That's the way we approach it. So, but we have had that growth, and it's been sustainable for the municipality, but we're hoping by working together as well, we're in the midst of a new development agreement, development plan that will, set the path for the future economically and with a strategy to really build around the town that has the amenities, has the water and sewer that we can, capitalize on. The mayor talked briefly about the agriculture community. That's a significant driver in the rural area. We have some big producers here that the RM is working with all the time. We talk about road safety, those types of things. We're in a program right now at the municipality to enhance that, to make people aware, because sometimes there's not that respect that's owed to some of these equipment, particularly at this time of the year and in the spring when they're seeding and harvesting. So that's always the issue. So in regards to the airport, though, if I can just add, we're in the midst of a master plan, because our regional airport here we're very fortunate to have, because it's a land base as well as a sea base.
Right.
There's a lot of activity, and we've got some major issues going on, because we service the north, and our airport is largely subsidized by our residents here. So we're hoping with the proper channel and the proper approach with a new master plan that we'll be able to leverage some funding from both the federal and provincial governments. So it's a key driver as well economically.
Yeah, I think people don't really realize how much of a hub Lac du Bonnet is as a region and as a town for a lot of people, either coming through as truckers or for the north, things like that. So lots of change ahead in the future. So thank you both for coming in and sharing your dreams.
We always say, come see us. We're a Four Seasons playground. Come for a weekend and stay for a lifetime.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we look forward to having you out here again.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you. That is both the mayor and Reeve. Kevin Lodge is the mayor of Lac du Bonnet, and Lauren Schinkel is the Reeve of Lac du Bonnet RM. 6:56 right now. Let's take a look at news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection says fines against a Winnipeg landlord accused of illegal evictions aren't severe enough. $9,000 in fines have been issued to the owner of 285 College Avenue after dozens of tenants were forced out back in July. $1,000 per unit is the maximum under the law. Lisa Naylor now says the province may look at increasing fines going forward. And Manitoba's opposition accuses the provincial government of meddling in the training of paramedics. The College of Paramedics has dropped a requirement for all potential trainees to take a university-level course in anatomy and physiology. The PC Health critic says the government may have pressured the college to make that change. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
I realized I called him the mayor Kevin Lodge. It's actually Ken Lodge, so just a quick correction there. Chloe, what's going on in traffic?
Yeah, we're going to take you back to Winnipeg here. Arlington and Portage, there's a down traffic standard blocking the eastbound and westbound median lanes, so keep right to pass. It's a pretty busy section. The lights at the intersections are currently still working, so that is some good news. As far as traffic in Lac du Bonnet, I'm not sure. Nadia Kidwai is here. Nadia, how was traffic this morning?
Sounds slow. Pretty
slow. Okay, yeah, traffic, good. Good in Lac du Bonnet. 204-788-3093 if you see anything else.
I will say here at Drifters, I mean, yesterday, it's bumping here.
It was.
This is a hub. There's lots of bikers coming by, truckers coming through here. This really is a hub for a lot of people.
And speaking of drifting, I love it because people drift from table to table having coffee because everybody knows each other.
Yes.
It's the best.
Yeah, this place, it's like a musical
you just mingle.
tables.
Yeah,
it's a great place. We are live here at Drifters in Lac du Bonnet, and we still got lots more stories about the community coming up here on Radio Noon. We're going to hear shortly about a field at the edge of town that sat vacant for 20 years as politicians waffled on whether to build a personal care home there. Now it's finally going to get built, and we're going to hear from a man who's fought to make it happen, how he plans to hold the government to account, because they say they're supposed to put shovels in the ground by the end of the year. Also, we're going to hear about how a local doctor is trying to recruit more doctors to come to the community. That's coming up right here on Information Radio, live from the beautiful town of Lac du Bonnet. Stay tuned. World Report is up next.
Today on The Current.
It's what you do when you, or at least what I do, when you feel anxious or where you feel you need a bit of solace.
The chef Yotam Ottolenghi is looking for comfort from his cooking in his latest book, To Bring People from Different Backgrounds Together in Difficult Times. Yotam Ottolenghi on the role of food in creating warmth, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Hurricane Milton is moving off Florida's east coast out into the Atlantic Ocean. The storm has been pummeling the central part of the state overnight.
It's okay. You're okay. That's it. Let's go. We got 3.
Police in Tampa rescue 3 children after a falling tree damaged their house. More than 3 million homes and businesses are without power. Tens of thousands of people spent the night in emergency shelters. Milton has now been downgraded, but officials warn it is still a dangerous storm. Ithel Musa has more.
Hurricane Milton slammed into Florida's western Gulf Coast last evening, carving a path of destruction with heavy rains and high winds of nearly 200 kilometers per hour. But officials say it's not over. Tampa's police chief, Lee Burkaw.
It is imperative that everybody stay inside and do not drive out on the roads. We have hundreds of calls of power lines down, we have trees down, and we are out there actively making the city and the streets safe. So please stay indoors until we give you the all clear.
Before the Category 3 hurricane made landfall near Sarasota, several powerful tornadoes ripped across the state. There are now reports of deaths connected to one that touched down in a southeastern county. On the west coast, a water main break has left residents in St. Petersburg without water, and hurricane winds have destroyed the roof of the city's domed stadium. Milton is now making its way toward the Atlantic, producing heavy rains and damaging hurricane-force winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour, and officials say life-threatening danger. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Washington.
The United States ambassador to the UN says conditions in the northern Gaza Strip are squalid. Estimated 400,000 people have been trapped there by the latest Israeli offensive on the Jabalia refugee camp. There are barriers to humanitarian aid, and famine is a growing problem. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is calling on Israel to address the problem.
The flow of humanitarian aid through multiple border crossings to Palestinian civilians is desperately needed and must be allowed.
She also warned Israel not to permanently expel Palestinians from Gaza or seize any territory for itself. A family in the Montreal area is speaking out after their son was attacked with boiling water. They believe he was a victim of racism. The 10-year-old suffered burns on his face and upper body. A woman in her 40s has been arrested. Sarah Levitt has more.
I was walking quietly, this 10-year-old boy whispers, timidly, recounting what happened last week. He says he took a shortcut with friends through a property on his way home from school. A woman came out, he says, and poured a pot of boiling water on me. CBC News isn't naming the boy as a minor who was a victim of violence. The boy's injuries still vividly evident. The skin on his right cheek has peeled away, leaving a circle of raw pink against his dark skin. His upper body is wrapped in bandages. Melanie Mercil is with Longueuil Police.
We arrested a woman in her 40s. She could face the charges of assault, causing bodily harm, and armed assault.
The woman was released on a promise to appear in court. The boy's father alleges the woman said his son had been knocking on her door for the past 3 years. Impossible, Tewa Pierre Seni says. The family has only been in the neighborhood since January. I believe racism was involved, Seni says. She didn't go after the white kids, she targeted my black child. It hurts, the boy says, and I'm angry. His family says he'll forever be left with scars, a daily reminder of an attack they'd sooner wish to forget. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Longueuil, Quebec.
We are entering the final 4 days of the public inquiry into foreign interference, or at least this phase of it. Starting today, we'll hear testimony from members of Justin Trudeau's cabinet. First up, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly and former Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino. Janice McGregor joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what should we be watching for today?
Marcia, questions about gatekeeping keep emerging at this inquiry. Whether political staffers and senior officials are making the right decisions about passing on key intelligence to their bosses. Although this phase of the inquiry is supposed to be focused on how to do better in the future, some of the testimony is still focused on accountability, such as why it took 54 days for a request from Canada's spy agency to begin surveillance on a former Ontario cabinet minister to be approved by former Public Safety Minister Bill Blair. Last evening's testimony from Blair's former Chief of Staff, Zita Astravas, didn't satisfy the lawyer for Conservative MP Michael Chong.
I put it to you, Madam, that the reason for the delay was simply this. Looking at the warrant, you saw in it that it was deeply concerned with the operations of your party and your government. You didn't want it to go ahead, and if it had to go ahead, you wanted to slow walk it. What do you say to that?
I can tell you that your assumptions are categorically false.
Liberal Michael Chan, the former provincial minister who's now deputy mayor in Markham, Ontario, he issued a statement yesterday afternoon accusing CSIS of using false evidence to obtain its wiretap and condemning leaks to the media, which he called the dissemination of proven lies. Commissioner Marie-Josée Ugg's challenge here is figuring out what recommendations she can make to avoid another mess like this.
The two ministers that we're hearing from today took on these roles after the 2021 election. Why do we need to hear from them?
Well, basically, because we know attempts at foreign meddling have continued. Intelligence probes revealed they impacted the 2022 Conservative leadership race, for example. Minister Joly had to kick out a Chinese diplomat for targeting the family members of MPs who speak out against Beijing's policies. Yesterday, the Prime Minister's current national security advisor said she hasn't seen anything that amounts to espionage, sabotage, putting national security at risk, but she has seen evidence of inappropriate behavior, lack of judgment, things that make her trust certain politicians less.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Today in Laos, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is meeting with like-minded partners, other countries who do business with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and who have similar security concerns about China. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovic is traveling with the Prime Minister.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure it is to sit down amongst friends here.
Sitting inside a cafe in the capital, Vientiane, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was joined by his counterparts from Australia and New Zealand for a rare trilateral meeting that lasted just under an hour.
We've been leaning in on so many of the challenges, whether it's cyber or various geopolitical conflicts.
One of the conflicts Trudeau says they're working closely on is the escalating situation in the Middle East. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
We together have issued statements reflecting those common values which are there, calling for de-escalation.
All three leaders used a photo op at the beginning of the meeting to reiterate their shared position. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon.
We see a world that I think is moving from rules to power.
Another shared interest, combating threats from China, a country blamed for persistent interference activities directed at all three countries. None of the leaders mentioned China by name in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, a senior government official speaking on background says Beijing was indeed discussed. Trudeau doesn't have a bilateral meeting scheduled with the Chinese government, but may have a run-in with China's premier, who's also attending the Association of Southeast Asian Nations summit. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Vientiane, Laos.
The winner of this year's Nobel Prize in Literature is South Korean author Han Kang. She is being praised this morning for intense prose that confronts the fragility of human life. Here is the chair of the Nobel Committee.
Han Kang's physical empathy for the vulnerable, often female lives, is palpable and reinforced by her metaphorically charged prose.
In 2016, Kang won the International Booker Prize for her novel, The Vegetarian. In that book, a woman's decision to stop eating meat has devastating consequences. 120 people have won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Kang is just the 18th woman to do so. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
The town that I live in is Lac-du-Bonnet.
And you're the former mayor, so there's some authority there.
Oh, well, yes, I guess so. Lac-du-Bonnet is kind of the French version of that. And I'm not sure I've got all the history of that right.
So how do you feel when city slickers like me show up here and start calling it Lac de Bonnie just willy-nilly?
Yeah, lots of people here call it that too. So
you still like me?
Yeah, you can still be my friend.
So there you have it, Lac de Bonnet, Lac de Bonnie, all totally acceptable. I'm 34 years old, and I only found out now that people call it Lac de Bonnet, so glad I'm here to learn more about this beautiful community. We're live at Drifters Inn here in Lac de Bonnie, right at the corner of Highway 11 and 313 on the western shore of the Winnipeg River, about 100 kilometers or so, or one large cup of coffee away from Winnipeg, just northeast of Winnipeg. You're listening to Information Radio. I'm Corey Funk. Good to be with you. Coming up this hour on the show, we're going to have a doctor stop by to share how she's been working to bring more physicians here to Lac de Bonnie. As well, why it's taken nearly 2 decades to build a personal care home here in the community. We're going to speak with a man who's been working tirelessly to get that built. 7:11 right now. Let's check in with news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Winnipeg tenant who went through an ordeal over asbestos testing during home renovations at her rented home wants you to know the risks. Laura Chase became worried after conflicting test results at her home as she got ready for those renos. Her property manager got negative results for asbestos, but then she did her own testing. It came back positive. Asbestos is carcinogenic and, if inhaled, can cause fatal illness. The manager of a Winnipeg knife store welcomes a bill from the Manitoba government to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons like machetes and swords. Logan Blade at Cutting Edge Cutlery says it is a good plan and will make the community safer. We'll hear more in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Of course.
Well, time now, 7:12, and we are looking for a very lovely fall day here in, across the province, really, aren't we here, Abby?
Yeah, across the province, it's going to be a fall day, mostly cloudy. The north will see temperatures warm up to about 9, and then down south we'll see warmer temperatures getting close to 25, like most of the regions down to Morris. Right now, Winnipeg, we've gone up. We're 10 degrees now, partly cloudy conditions we're seeing outside. We won't be seeing more of the sun today, much of the sun today. Today will be mostly cloudy, a light breeze developing this afternoon. We then warm up to 25. Tonight, expect these cloudy conditions to stay with us. It then become breezy, and we will be cooling off to 6 degrees. Currently, Thompson at 5, Churchill at 3. Down south, we're seeing cloudy conditions in most of the areas. Brandon at 5, Dauphin 11, Gimli 7, Steinbach 9, and Morris 9. Just partly cloudy. We're starting this Thursday off warm, and then sunshine from yesterday is gone. We will be warming up to 25 today, and then tomorrow it's going to be sunny but much cooler. So I'll just advise enjoy today, folks. Corey, you should enjoy today, I'm telling you.
Oh, I will. Maybe I'll take another dip. We'll see in the Winnipeg River.
Please do, because it's going to be cooler tomorrow.
Yes, okay, we'll do. Thank you very much, Abby. Chloe Friesen, what's going on with the commute? Chloe's here on at Drifters with us as well. What do you say?
Hello. Arlington and Portage are going to go back to Winnipeg. There's a down traffic standard blocking your eastbound and westbound median lanes, so keep right to pass. The lights are currently still working, so that is some good news. We haven't heard any updates, so if you're in the area of Arlington and Portage and you can let us know what you're seeing, give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, as mentioned, we're here live at Drifters Inn in Lac de Bonnie, and Drifters Inn has been here for a while, and I only feel kind of bad for pulling Carol Fortin off the floor. She's actually the only server right now, and it's getting progressively busier. I'm sure 2 people just walked in. She's like, I should probably go give them a menu. But luckily, she's here with us, and to tell us a little bit. She's been working here for 25 years. Good morning to you, Carol.
Good morning.
So, 25 years. Tell me a little bit about Drifters and what this place has come to mean to you.
Well, I started in the spring of '99, just when they added on the lounge and rooms, and it's just progressively gotten busier and busier, and people are great, customers are great, food's great, and I just love working here.
What is that you love about working here?
The staff is awesome. The customers are from everywhere, and they're so great. Mm-hmm. And it's a busy active place.
I feel people don't really understand how busy of a place I think this is, how much of a hub this place is. So there's a hotel, there's a lounge, there's a restaurant. Wig nights apparently are bonkers on Tuesdays.
Yes, they are.
Shoulder to shoulder, I've heard. And yourself, what is it about, I want to zoom out to Lac du Bonnet. Have you lived here your whole life, born and
Yes.
raised? Okay,
Yes.
what is it about this town that you love so much?
Well, I grew up here, so home is where the heart is, right? And I've moved away, but I did come back. And I came back from west, and I started working here, and I never left.
And what do you notice about how the town itself has changed in the 25 years? Or like in your whole life since you've actually been here?
Cottage area has gotten crazy busy. We have a big cottage country area, which helps our business as well. And I just love it. We're on the Winnipeg River. We have the snowmobiling, which I'm hoping we get this winter.
Yes, yeah, last year wasn't so great.
No, not at all. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping for some snow and get some more people out.
People who are like, I'm thinking about coming by Lac du Bonnet, maybe spending a trip here. What would be your suggestion to folks? Any like hidden gems that people should check out?
There's lots. There's a lot of scenery. Hidden gems. I don't know. Old Pinwall Dam site's always nice to go for a walk. I don't know. It's just there's lots to do. Like I say, it's they call it the Four-Season Playground. So
yeah, it's beautiful here. Well, Carol, thanks so much. I'll let you get back to it. I know it's like there's been like 7 people who've walked in here since. So
Carol,
thank you.
Carol, I stepped in. I gave them menus and coffee. Was that the right?
Great.
Was that the right thing to
Thank
do?
you very much.
Okay.
She'll take 10% of your tip.
No.
Okay.
Keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. That is Carol Fortin. She's worked here at Drifters Inn for 25 years. We are live here in Lac du Bonnet, where we are doubling. Well, Chloe Friesen is doubling as also server here while we pull people.
I've never worked in a restaurant before. I think I did a good job.
I'd seen you. I saw you. You had a nice smile. You're very friendly, very
Okay.
customer forward service. So
good.
thanks, Chloe, for stepping up. Duties as assigned, I think we call that.
I'm no Carol.
No,
Carol.
you can't. Yeah, no, Carol's got the magic touch for sure. Well, time now is 7:17. We want to tell some more stories here about Lac du Bonnet. Just off Highway 11 sits a sign that says "Future Home of the Lac du Bonnet Care Home." And the catch, it's been there for nearly 2 decades. It's on the edge of a 10-acre patch of land that was set aside by the town, thinking the province would, in short order, build a 95-bed personal care home, but it hasn't yet. In the spring, the provincial government promised shovels would be in the ground by the end of the year, and with under 3 months left, Gordon Peters plans to hold them to it. He's president and interim CEO of the Lac du Bonnet Heritage Corporation, or Lac du Bonnet Heritage Corporation, that he would say. He's also the town's former mayor. He's been working to get the PCH built for 16 years here in town, and I met him at the edge of that vacant field yesterday.
Okay, we're on Leslie Avenue, south side of town. We're looking at a 10-acre field, of which 6.5 acres will be used for the personal care home.
And it's been sitting like this for 20 years.
Yes, sir, it has. And people drive by, and I know that that personal care home sign out on the highway, there was efforts by the province to take that sign down. I said no. I was mayor here for 8 years, and it was during that time, and I said no, we'll take over the responsibility of that sign. It's staying.
Now, this home is now finally, the government just announced not long ago that it is going to be built. What was that feeling like when you actually learned it's going to happen?
Well, it was great news. The project has been in the history of those that have been around here longer than I have is about 30 years. And so we've had back in 2012 in that area, there was development by the NDP government, and they spent several $1 million getting ready, and then there was the cancellation of that after the election and money savings going on, and then we also did a community development plan for a personal care home. Presented it in 2017, and there was no official government response from that. But now we've been invited by the previous conservative government to develop a plan, and that's been done. and we followed through, and we're ready to build. And now the announcement is going ahead after the pause is exciting, and we're delighted to be able to lead this when the final steps are made to get it going.
So 20 years, like of hoping to get this up and running. I imagine when it first started, there was a lot of optimism that it would be happening, in short order. Yeah. What was the delay? Was it mostly politics? That's what it kind of sounds like to me.
I would say yes, and provincial budgeting and so on. The money needs to be there to be able to do projects like this, and it didn't seem to be on the previous occasions. So that's what we're believing is now readily available, and so we're ready to go.
So NDP government says shovels in the ground by the end of the year this year. I know it's been 20 years coming. Are you hopeful that actually that's going to happen?
We believe it'll happen. Yeah. The commitment's been made, and then there was delays for the review and so on that took place starting December 18th of last year, and regional audits have taken place, and we get kind of encompassed in all of that as well. And so I'm looking probably within the next couple of weeks for additional information as to moving forward and next steps to take.
And what are you hearing from seniors in the community who must be just really excited to get in here?
Well, I'm not sure that news has all crept out. They're a little skeptical because of the March announcement and nothing happening during the major building season. So there's some considerable skepticism after 30 years, which is understandable. But I know that there's a lot of excitement in the development of this.
And I imagine, that demand has been there for this past 20 years. So what has that meant for the seniors who have been kind of hoping for this care home in the meantime? How have they been living?
Well, the seniors certainly that aren't in personal care yet are anxious for it to be done, so that when they get to that stage of their lives, that there's some facility in the area that's readily available. And those that are in need of care, many of them are in hospital beds, and so that's a completely different service than what they actually need.
Well, I imagine there must have also just been some folks who were thinking, eventually they'll make their way to this care home, but never did.
That's correct. Yeah, because we just didn't have the capacity in our community for that. Yeah.
That must be a little heartbreaking, hey?
It is. Absolutely it is. Because we've, a few years ago when we first started all our research, the region required about 240 more personal care homes than they had. So there was a lot of people that were out of the opportunity to be in a personal care home in our local area.
And once this personal care home is built, how many people is it going to be able to hold?
95 beds. We presently have a 30-bed in the community, and that'll be replaced by the 95 bed. And so we've got a net gain of 65 beds in our immediate region. Yeah.
And that's going to make a pretty big impact for a lot of folks in the community, I imagine.
Absolutely, yeah, because what happens initially, oftentimes in the community, people are looking for a personal care home bed, and they're being sent all over the place to be serviced, and they're provided for. And now, once this is built, we'll be able to handle that locally, and we're excited about that.
What do you think it's going to be like when you officially, get to walk into this building for the first time?
I don't know that yet, but I'm looking forward to that day.
What's the chances you might live in it?
I have no plans for that. I'm healthy and plan to stay that way.
Nice to know it's there, though, just in case.
Absolutely. But we care about everybody that needs it, and that's why we're doing it.
That's Gordon Peters. He's president and interim CEO of the Lactobonnet Heritage Corp. And if all goes to plan, he says residents will start moving in by the end of 2026. Also, fun fact, he pulled out the blueprints for it and was actually showing us, he put on the hood of his car. It was showing us, actually, it includes, which is this pretty unique, actually, 2 hotel rooms built in it for family or for, say, if staff are stuck there overnight to actually stay in. So maybe makes visiting easier for families. And apparently it's a pretty unique part of that PCH design. Time now is 7:25, and Scott Regehr is in with a look at sports. Hello there, Scott.
Good morning, Corey.
So I was here at the Drifters Inn yesterday watching the Jets absolutely pummel the Oilers. It was the third period, and we were cheering for one goal in the third period, and all of a sudden, we weren't even done cheering when all of a sudden there was just another goal. It was amazing.
Yeah, and what a way to start the season. An historic start, Corey, the 6-0 thrashing of the Oilers in the end. It sets a new franchise record for largest margin of victory in a season opener. Jets 1.0 version also had a 6-goal win. Kyle Connor, how about him? He scored the power play on the power play last night, which establishes a new NHL record for season opening goals. This is just a head scratcher. Connor has now registered at least a goal in each of Winnipeg's openers dating back to 2018. 7 straight years. Incredible. But it was a different Connor, Corey, that stole the show last night for me. Connor Hellebuck, who rejoined the team after taking a leave to deal with family matters, stopped all 30 shots he faced, becoming the first Jets goalie, either iteration, to post a season-opening shutout. Here is Hellebuck.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week. It's been tough on the whole family, but, the boys played great for me, and they've been really supportive this entire time. So I really cherish these moments, and I cherish my time with the family. So hope they're doing all right.
It's not knowing what Hellebuck's family is dealing with, but just hearing him there, you feel for him. And so nice to see, Corey, his teammates, the way they received him upon his return. It's pretty safe to say that Connor's getting all kinds of support from them. The Jets next in action tomorrow for their home opener against Connor Bedard, the super sophomore, and Chicago.
What's with all the Connors? Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard. It must be that's like, if you name your kid Connor, are they guaranteed to be in the NHL?
It would seem a good ploy if you're a parent of a budding hockey star. Yeah, absolutely.
So meanwhile, let's turn to baseball. Meanwhile, the New York Mets are the first team through the baseball's Final Four.
Lindor towards right center field. This one is back. It is gone! Grand slam, and Lindor puts the Mets on top.
Francisco Lindor's grand slam in the 6th inning last night, Corey, enough to see New York through to the National League Championship Series. There, the Mets will face the winner of tonight's game between the Dodgers and Padres. In fact, by night's end, we could know all of baseball's Final Four. With victories of their own this evening, the Yankees and, yes, the Detroit Tigers couldn't end up making the American League Championship Series.
And finally here, one of the tennis greatest players is calling it a career.
That's right. Rafael Nadal, Corey, announced this morning he is going to retire next month. Nadal's 22 Grand Slams, the second most of all time, and had it not been for a litany of injuries, including a foot he can no longer feel because of permanent nerve damage, Nadal probably would have won more slams. Here's part of a video he put out this morning.
The reality is that it has been some difficult years. I don't think I've been able to play without limitations. In this life, everything has a beginning and an end, and I think it's the appropriate time to put an end to a career that has been long and much more successful than I could have ever imagined. My last tournament will be the final of the Davis Cup. I think I've come full circle, since one of my first great joys as a professional tennis player was the Davis Cup final in Sevilla.
That tournament on the Sevillan clay was 20 years ago. It was in 2004. So fitting that the so-called King of Clay, Corey, will finish his career on the red dirt in Malaga in next month's Davis Cup finals, where Canada will be in Spain's group. So there's going to be lots of attention, lots of eyeballs on that tournament. And just before I head off, a reminder that not only is Connor a great name if you want to have a hockey prodigy, it is a name that means in Irish Gaelic, lover of hounds. So there's that added bonus.
Well, thank you very much, Scott.
You're very welcome.
That's Scott Regehr with a look at sports. Well, coming up shortly here in about 10 minutes, she just actually arrived here at Drifters. A local physician is stopping by to share how she's working to bring more physicians to Lac du Bonny. That's coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. Temperature has dropped just a little bit now at 10 degrees. Gone is yesterday's sun, but that summery warmth will continue. Cloudy today with a high of 25. A Winnipeg tenant who went through an ordeal over asbestos testing during renovations of her rented home wants you to know the risks. Laura Chase became worried after conflicting test results at her home in preparation for renovations. Her property manager got negative tests for asbestos, but then she did her own testing.
After the windows were replaced and before the bathroom was renovated, I did the testing. And I found the results were indeed positive. And that was alarming because 3 windows had been replaced without any precautions.
Asbestos is a carcinogen and, if inhaled, can cause fatal illness. Canada has banned the use of asbestos-containing materials, but they were widely used in construction and renovations of homes and commercial buildings until about 1990. The manager of a Winnipeg knife store welcomes a bill from the Manitoba government to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons like machetes and swords. The bill calls for retailers to store long-bladed weapons in a way that makes them harder to get to. It would also prevent them from selling to minors and require them, retailers, to obtain ID and keep purchase records for at least 2 years. Logan Blade is at Cutting Edge Cutlery.
This is a good plan for the province to make our community safer. We opened this store in 2016, and we've already instilled those policies the day we opened.
Blade says the proposed legislation may help staff at stores selling these kinds of products to feel safer. Manitoba's opposition accuses the provincial government of meddling in the training of paramedics. The College of Paramedics has dropped a requirement for all potential trainees to take a university-level course in anatomy and physiology. It says the requirement, in place for just a year, was preventing interested applicants from coming forward. The progressive conservative health critic Kathleen Cook says the NDP government may have pressured the college to make the change.
They could have added more paramedic training seats. They could have offered return of service agreements. They could have made the profession more appealing rather than watering down training requirements.
Health Minister Uzoma Eseguera denies the province pressured the college to remove the prerequisite, but says they're in favor of removing unnecessary roadblocks for Manitobans who want to study to become paramedics. Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection doesn't think penalties against a Winnipeg landlord went far enough. Lisa Naylor says the owner of 285 College Avenue acted illegally by forcing tenants out with little warning in July. The Residential Tenancies Branch issued 32 orders to the owner and allowed tenants back into the building. Since then, the branch has issued $9,000 in fines to the landlord.
I don't think $9,000 is enough. $9,000 is what is allowed under the current act and under the current regulations. So that is why we are doing kind of a deep dive into the Residential Tenancies Act to see what we can do to improve tenants' rights.
Naylor says 9 tenants have taken part in the province's investigation so far. She encourages more to get involved. A lawyer for the landlord tells CBC they have appealed those penalties. Now to Florida and Hurricane Milton. More than 3 million homes and businesses are without power this morning as Milton cuts a path across central Florida. It made land last night in Siesta Key, and the storm surge that came with it has swamped a vast area of the Gulf Coast. That includes densely populated areas like Tampa, Sarasota, and Fort Myers. You can hear the latest on that story, as well as other national and international news on World Report at 8. Artificial intelligence is taking over security checks in some Winnipeg venues. Canada Life Centre implemented AI-based security screening at all its entrances for the start of this year's hockey season. Dawn House at True North Sports and Entertainment says it will get people into Canada Life Centre much quicker, and guests won't have to empty their pockets unless the AI detects something that isn't allowed in the building.
The first time that we used it for a couple of concerts in September leading up to our preseason games, and then we used the system for our first 3 preseason games. So we've had an opportunity to work out some of the kinks and get people used to it.
Princess Auto Stadium also started using AI scanners at all their gates this season, and Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre did a pilot project using AI scanners this past summer. Well, the Winnipeg Jets blasted into the NHL new season in a big way, and they did it in Oiler territory.
Here's a shot for Dylan Sandberg. Top shelf on Stuart Skinner. And Winnipeg erupting for 2 goals in 20 seconds.
Amazing. Dylan Sandberg on Sportsnet following up on a goal that had just happened from Rasmus Kupari as the Winnipeg Jets shut out Edmonton 6-0. Also scoring for Winnipeg, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, Kyle Connor, and Mark Scheifele. It was Connor Hellebuck's 38th career shutout, blocking 30 shots. Winnipeg now heads home for the season home opener tomorrow night against Chicago. You can find more on that game and other news from Manitoba at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Woot woot, go Jets.
Yeah. Very happy.
So exciting. Thank you very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. That's Heather Wells at our CBC News Desk. If you hear the hustle and bustle behind us, maybe some dishes clanking, we are here at Drifters Inn, right off the right corner of Highway 11 and 313, just the northern tip of Lac du Bonnet. And this is clearly the place to be on a Thursday morning. It's been really busy here. Lots of great people. People kind of leaving their tables, going to chat with one another. It's such a lovely community here in Lac du Bonnet. And excited to share some more stories with you. I just have a doctor standing by to share a little bit about how she's working to get more doctors to come here. But first, let's check in with the weather right now, Abby, which is going to be a lovely day to maybe, take a dip in the Winnipeg River.
Yep. If your menu says coffee over there, my menu here says cloudiness. That's what we will be seeing. Highs ranging from, lots of clouds on the menu today. We're going to see highs ranging from 9 in Churchill to 25 for Steinbach, Maurice, Gimli, down south. Currently, Winnipeg, 13, we're at 10 degrees. We dropped to 10 at this point. Today will be mainly cloudy in the city. Light breeze will develop this afternoon, reaching a high of 25. We're looking at Brandon now. Brandon is at 5 degrees, heading to a high of 21. Also partly cloudy there. Dauphin is at 11, mostly cloudy. Gimli 7, Steinbach 9, Maurice 9. All will be seeing highs close to, mid-20s today. But up in the northern part of the province, we're seeing 4 degrees in Thompson, also mostly cloudy. We're seeing this mainly cloudy condition will stay with that part of the region today. There's a slight chance of showers in the forecast. I've not said this in a while. Slight chance of showers in the forecast for Thompson, and we'll see highs near 11. And for Churchill, where Churchill is heading to a high of 9 degrees. Just right now, partly cloudy in the city. We're at 10 degrees. Thursday is warm, but tomorrow will be cool. So enjoy the sunshine for tomorrow, but today is kind of a cloudy day.
Last day of second summer, we'll say.
I'll tell you, I'll take it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abby. That's Abby Adeyemi back at our Studio 15 in Winnipeg. And Chloe Friesen is here with us at Drifters and keeping an eye on the commute. Hello.
Hello. That issue at Arlington and Portage with the down traffic standard has been cleared. Good news. So traffic is open. And traffic in Lac du Bonnet, I don't know, the highway is kind of picking up out there, but that's all I got. If there is something getting in your way on your commute today, give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Chloe. We are here in Lac du Bonnet at Drifters Inn, and we have lots of people drifting in and out to join us here on the show this morning. And next up, we do have a doctor sitting with us here. It's tough finding a doctor here in Manitoba. In fact, we've got the second lowest number of doctors per capita in Canada. That's according to an October 2023 report by the Canadian Institute for Health Information. And here in Lac du Bonnet, a local clinic is trying their best to change that for the town of Lac du Bonnet. Dr. Selena Papetti is a local family physician with the Lac du Bonnet Medical Group. She's also the associate head of distributed medical education with the Department of Family Medicine at the University of Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for joining us. I want to actually start by talking about your sweater that you're wearing right now.
About
I think
our clinic marketing?
Yes. Yeah, but it also kind of sums up your philosophy and maybe even your recruitment philosophy a little bit. Tell me what it says.
So it says hillbilly medicine, the cure for perimeteritis. So perimeteritis is when people are just scared to leave the perimeter. They think there's nothing that exists beyond the perimeter.
We've been accused of that now and then here at CBC.
But you're here,
Yep.
and we appreciate you.
Good to be here.
So yeah, we see ourselves as the cure for perimeteritis. We try and bring as many medical students and residents into our community as possible and show them that this is a great place to live and work, because there's more to life than just work, right?
Mm-hmm. And how effective has that strategy been so far? Tell me about that.
Well, my group, so I mean, it's obviously not just myself. I work with several other colleagues. I've got Dr. Bruno, and then we have a nurse practitioner, Lisa Kraker, and then our long-standing clinic staff, Crystal and Tricia. We have been successful in recruiting one physician, Dr. Klovchuk. He was a former learner of ours, and with the help of the arm of Lac du Bonny, town of Lac du Bonny, and with cooperation with the LGD of Pinawa, we were able to recruit him back here. And then right now we're actually working on recruiting another medical student. So it's a lot of manpower and a lot of time and money that goes into working with these learners, and certainly we don't get all of them, but some of them do come back to work in the region. So what's good for our neighbors is good for us too.
Well, people might hear one, maybe two. That's not a lot, but one doctor can make a huge difference for a community, I imagine.
It's a massive difference, especially if you have a physician who's able to take a panel of 800 to 1,000 people in a community, and we serve our neighboring communities as well, right? So someone might work in Lac du Bonny but live in a further out community, and it's convenient for them to doctor with us. So we need more people.
How big is the need here in Lac du Bonny and the wider community right now for doctors?
I mean, we have a very stable group. We can't take everyone. We've recently had some physicians leave the community, and so I mean, there's definitely a need. We need people who have those skills where they're able to see a lot of acute care, where they have a very broad skill set. You need to be able to do just about everything, and you need to have the clinical courage to do just about everything to work in a community like this, and we're very well supported with one another in our community. So I mean, definitely a huge need. There is a crisis in primary care, not just in Manitoba but nationwide, and we're just picking away at what we can locally to help out without getting bogged down in like the bigger system issues.
And what do you need from the province to get more doctors to come to Lac du Bonny in particular?
I mean, to Lac du Bonny in particular, support for people who teach. So, I mean, remuneration for physicians who take on learners is, it's a constant issue. There's a lot of grumbling around that topic. So, I mean, physician remuneration for being educators. Housing is always an issue in all rural communities. We're very fortunate here that, we have the support of the community, and our clinic has gotten involved. We actually have an apartment attached to our clinic. So for our community, it's not as much a problem. But I think really it's looking at how physicians are paid for putting in the time to teach, because it is, it's fun, we enjoy it, but it is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. And yourself, you actually weren't born and raised here in Lac du Bonny. What made you want to come out here and practice here in Lac du Bonny?
I'm from St. Boniface, and I came out here for a 2-week elective. I was looking for somewhere to do an elective when I was in 4th year medical school that was near my cottage in Big White Shell Lake, and my mom was like, well, why don't you go to Pinawa? And so I set up an elective in Pinawa, and when I actually spoke with the physician, he was like, my practice is actually mostly in Lac du Bonny. And I was like, cool. So I don't know, it was just like on a whim. And I ended up coming out to Lac du Bonny for an elective, and like, I was floored by how friendly the patients were. Mm-hmm. It was like I was running so late in clinic because everyone just wanted to talk to me. Like, where are you from? Like, how's it going? Who are you? Are you planning to stay? And, that's when my partner and I started thinking about just the geographic location and that it might be a good fit for us, for me to pursue wanting to be a rural family physician, and then for him with his work. And my parents, now they've retired to Big White Shell Lake, so it's worked out really well.
Yeah, we heard from the mayor earlier, this is the kind of place that come for a weekend, stay for lifetime, which, if you're cynical, might be like, that sounds like a great marketing ploy. But actually, I'm hearing stories like yours, and actually kind of sounds like
it works.
It's a thing.
We recently had a medical student come out for her clerkship rotation, never heard of her before in our life, no ties to this community, really. And she came and worked with us and was like, I love it here. And now she's negotiating a return of service agreement to come back and work with us when she graduates.
That's amazing.
That simple.
That's simple, eh? Well, Selena, thanks so much for joining us to tell us a little bit about what you're doing here, and all the best getting more doctors here and with the work that you're doing for the community.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Selena Papetti. family physician with the Lactobani Medical Group, or Lactobonnet Medical Group, however you like to say it. She's also the Associate Head of Distributed Medical Education with the Department of Family Medicine at the U of M.
When the WWF took on the WWE, the Panda pinned the wrestler. When a storm slammed the stereo store, a best place to buy was born. And then Smokey Philip Morris butted out his name. Tornadoes and lawsuits, why companies changed their names, on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
45 right now. We're live at Drifters Inn in Lactobani, but we want to turn to news from Winnipeg right now. Winnipeg has been cracking down on its vacant building problem, and as an incentive to maintain their derelict or abandoned buildings last year, the city started sending out invoices to owners to pay for property fires. The invoices, which cover the cost of battling the fire, were meant to encourage owners to take better care of their buildings. And in the past year, the city's issued $1.5 million worth of fees, but so far they've only collected about $78,500. And in some cases, the high fees may have discouraged property owners from making repairs, actually leading to repeat fires. So now the city staff is recommending lowering fees in hopes more owners will pay up. Here's Mayor Scott Gillingham on Wednesday telling reporters he's open to changes.
I don't mind being a city where we attempt things to make improvements, and if things aren't working the way we attempted, we back up a little bit and go to a plan that really will get the outcome we need. It's all about the outcome, and the outcome is there are too many vacant derelict properties. We need that number reduced, and we need those properties turned into housing. We're at a housing announcement today and talking about the fact that we need more housing across the city, so we need to get those 700 properties converted, changed into developed properties where people can live. I'm always open to adjusting what we need to adjust. Even if we've done something, we thought it was going to work, we thought it was going to get a result. If it doesn't get the result, the goal is to get the result we need. And the result we need is fewer vacant and derelict properties, and those properties turned into developed properties. We're willing as a city, always willing to work with property owners to try to find ways to get them to develop their properties, to reduce the number of vacant and derelict buildings. And that's our collective goals. As a council, we have been working for years now trying to reduce the number of vacant and derelict buildings. We have 700 of them right now. That is too many. That's a priority for us as a council to try to reduce that number, and we'll do so in a way that where possible, we'll work with property owners. And if it's having them opt into programs or the city assisting them in some way, then we're glad to do that. The goal is to get those vacant properties developed. And so we collectively, every one of us, standing with me today, we as a council have been working, providing both carrot and stick approaches, trying to incentivize property owners to get their derelict buildings taken care of, torn down, and redeveloped. On the other hand, we put significant penalties in place trying to get to the same outcome. Chief Schmidt and his department have indicated that right now those the fees to charge the full cost of fighting fires are not being paid. Ultimately, what we want to do is get to a place where those properties that are derelict are taken care of, demolished, or renovated so that housing can get there. So however we have to do it. So I'm open, very open to the discussion with my EPC colleagues and then council colleagues as to how we can get that happen. I'm open to us adjusting the fees. The goal is to get those properties developed however we can do it. So if there are property owners who owe the city of Winnipeg and they're not paying those fees, it is absolutely a concern when we're losing revenue. On the other hand, I'm very open to the discussion about making changes necessary so that we are not in a position where we have bad debt on our books, but ultimately the goal is to get the properties developed, and that is the main focus here, is to find a way to work with the property owners to get derelict buildings turned into housing.
That was Mayor Scott Gillingham talking about why he's open to lowering fees for landlords with vacant or derelict buildings. The city is recommending a new set of lower fees starting at $5,000 for the first fire, up to $20,000 for the fourth and subsequent fires. The William White neighborhood has some of the highest numbers of vacant building fires, and unlike Gillingham, Neighborhood Association President Daryl Warren doesn't support lowering the fees. He explained why to CBC's Cameron McLean.
How are things going in the neighborhood right now?
Right now, we are experiencing still a high volume of fires in the area, unfortunately, but some of our lots, our piles of rubble, are actually been cleaned up, and there's probably 8 to 10 lots that have been cleaned up and are looking very beautiful. We wrote a report, and unfortunately, again, there's I did a neighborhood cruise and checked the area out and added probably about another 12 to 15 properties. So we're probably up to about 60 properties right now. This year is higher because we are experiencing, like I say, a big number of fires lately. For me, I'm scared for the residents that live next door to these particular properties because there's always a threat of life, and a lot of them aren't sleeping as is because they're afraid of what's going on with the fires.
So now they're saying we're going to lower the fees to make them easier to pay, and hopefully that's going to lead to more people actually paying these fees. So what do you think about the fact that the city brought in this measure and now they're saying it's not working and we have to make some changes?
I understand with anything that when you implement it, you might have to tweak the changes and make changes to go ahead and make it a better thing. I honestly believe that it's not right because a lot of these property owners, they can afford the fines. They're just not paying the fines. So to say that these people can't afford it, I think is total hogwash because they do have money. But they have to be responsible, just like everybody else that's a resident here in the city of Winnipeg. We have to be responsible. And there's things that you have to do as a homeowner to comply with bylaws. And if I have to follow those bylaws and follow those rules, I think the rules and the bylaws apply to everybody. It's not like you're being ruled out. So I honestly believe that these landlords should step up, pay the fees, and quit jerking the city around on these fees. To the people in the neighborhood, they would probably see the city as being weak. And what I mean by that is the city being weak is they're backing down from these guys. And as soon as you send that message to somebody that has money that, hey, we're backing down because we don't want to go to war with you, well, you're going to go ahead and take that as a win, and you're probably going to keep knocking the system. So I don't believe that lowering the fees is going to make them pay up any sooner.
The report did say that some landlords were saying that because they had to pay these fees, that they couldn't afford to make repairs to the properties, and that may have actually discouraged people from doing the work that they said that they want to do to bring their properties back into condition. What do you think of that?
If they were spending the money on repairs and bringing their properties up to what they should be, I would say great, but we know that's not happening. They're taking the rent money, they're putting it in their pockets and their bank accounts, and they're not putting it back into the properties. I see the mayor's point, but I don't agree with it, because if one of these fires cause a loss of life to a neighboring house, what value do we put on that? Do we say that that life is worth $20,000? And because you just happen to live next door to one of these properties, you've lost your life? Your family has lost a mother, a father, a brother, a sister? That's not right. And $20,000 will definitely not compensate you if you do lose that person. And I don't think that $20,000 is enough. I think these guys have to get in line, be responsible property owners, and that's all there is to it.
That's Daryl Warren. He's the William White Neighborhood Association president. You can read more about it you could read more about this on our website, cbc.ca/ Manitoba. We're live here in Lac du Bonny this morning at Drifters Inn, and I do want to give a shout out to all the lovely folks at last night's open mic at the Listening Room here in Lac du Bonny. It's in this beautiful 117-year-old church that's been converted into a music venue by the local historical association. Every second Wednesday you can show up, whether you're a writer or musician, and share your work. You sign up, you get a 15-minute slot, and it's a really welcoming, lovely place to perform. Even I may have taken the stage at one point as well, made a little debut. So thanks to everyone there, including Bernadette, who's a local artist and also hosted last night. Here she is with her song Road Trip.
We're at that time of life where we can fly, hit the road not knowing where we're going. Oh, why roll down the window, turn on the radio and drive. We don't know where we're going, but we got each other, we got time. Sometimes it seems the road ahead is hard to know. We can't see what's ahead, just what's behind, and so it goes. Roll down the window, turn on the radio and sing. We can't see where we're going or what the road will bring.
That's Lac du Bonny's own Bernadette with her song Road Trip. If you want to see her perform and many other of the very talented musicians here in town, you can go to the open mic and you can even have a go yourself if you're a budding musician. Super welcoming place. It's every Wednesday at the Listening Room here in town, this big, beautiful old church. You can't miss it if you drive down MacArthur Avenue. Well, 7:56 right now here on Information Radio. We're live in Lac du Bonny at Drifters Inn. Let's head to Winnipeg now for a look at news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, the manager of a Winnipeg knife store welcomes a bill from the Manitoba government to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons, including machetes and swords. Logan Blade at Cutting Edge Cutlery says it is a good plan and will make the community safer. Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection says fines against a Winnipeg landlord accused of illegal evictions are not severe enough. $9,000 in fines have been issued to the owner of 285 College Avenue after dozens of tenants were forced out in July. $1,000 per unit is the maximum under the law, and the minister, Lisa Naylor, says the province may look at increasing fines going forward. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. Look at your commute. Things seem to be running fairly smoothly in Winnipeg right now, but if you see something, you can give us a call on the commuter line, 204-788-3093. Still ahead here on Information Radio. If you need a hug, she'll give you a hug. If you need a kick in the pants, she'll give you a kick in the pants. That's the motto of a community outreach worker here in Lac du Bonny who serves the community out of Miss Lucci's Resource Center, which is named after a soap opera star. And it doubles as a thrift store. More on that story coming up. We're going to hear about her and her journey to sobriety and the role that place played in her life. As well, Emily Brass, CBC reporter, she's been here since Saturday, and she's actually going to be stopping by to talk about the stories that she's been working on here in Lac du Bonny. I'm Corey Funk here live with Chloe Friesen at Drifters Inn, and it is a bustling place to be. We're so happy to be here. Stay tuned. World Report is standing by.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Tobias Jesso Jr. for a while there was all the talk of the music industry. His album made it to pretty much every best of list when all of a sudden he stopped. He'll tell you about the hard decision to stop his artist career and how he thinks he was saved by writing with Adele.
You know, surreal, a little bit starstruck. I don't know what to do.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The chef Yotam Ottolenghi is looking for comfort from his cooking in his latest book to bring people from different backgrounds together in difficult times. Yotam Ottolenghi on the role of food in creating warmth, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Hurricane Milton is pushing into the Atlantic after wreaking havoc across central Florida. It roared ashore on the west coast as a Category 3 storm so far. There have been at least 4 storm-related deaths. The CBC's Katie Simpson has been in Orlando in the midst of it all. And Katie, give us an update on what's been happening across Florida.
It's our understanding that there is a little bit of glimmer of good news here, that the worst case scenario did not play out. But that said, there is still incredible amounts of damage. As we're sort of driving, making our way to Tampa Bay and Sarasota, we're seeing some downed trees, some downed signs. There are more than 3.1 million people without power. But the big concern right now is what about the people who did not listen to those evacuation orders and stayed in Gulf Coast communities that were hardest hit. Now that the sunlight is up, those search and rescue efforts can get underway, but it is still a very dangerous situation. There are power outages, there are down power lines, there is intense flooding, and so that is the concern right now. First responders figuring out who needs help, how they can help them, and whether it's safe to do so.
And what are some of the other big concerns going forward?
Well, this thing isn't over just yet. There is still the concerns around flash flooding and what that could look like, particularly in central Florida. We spent some time in Orlando, and particularly some low-lying areas. There had been some great concern that as rain continued and rain intensified, that there could be some additional flash flooding in it on top of what everyone saw with the hurricane force winds, and of course with the rain that was just so intense for so many hours. Some places in Florida got more than 30 centimeters of rain in a very short period of time. Just think about that. That's a short ruler stick, but that's still a significant amount of rain. So the big concern going forward right now is what about flash flooding? Are there going to be more flash floods in certain areas that catch people off guard? The sun is coming out and it's starting to look a little bit nicer outside. But even with that said, the concern is the situation is still dangerous and people are being told to still shelter in place, at least for now.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.
That is the CBC's Katie Simpson near Orlando. The United States ambassador to the UN says conditions in the northern Gaza Strip are squalid. An estimated 400,000 people have been trapped there by the latest Israeli offensive on the Jabalia refugee camp. There are barriers to humanitarian aid, and famine is a growing problem. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is calling on Israel to address the problem.
The flow of humanitarian aid through multiple border crossings to Palestinian civilians is desperately needed and must be allowed.
She also warned Israel not to permanently expel Palestinians from Gaza or seize any territory for itself. Earlier this week, Israeli tanks and infantry attacked northern Gaza for a third time. It says the move was to prevent Hamas from regrouping. A family in the Montreal area is speaking out after their son was attacked with boiling water. They believe he was a victim of racism. The 10-year-old suffered burns on his face and upper body. A woman in her 40s has been arrested. Sarah Levitt has more.
I was walking quietly, this 10-year-old boy whispers, timidly, recounting what happened last week. He says he took a shortcut with friends through a property on his way home from school. A woman came out, he says, and poured a pot of boiling water on me. CBC News isn't naming the boy as a minor who was a victim of violence. The boy's injuries still vividly evident. The skin on his right cheek has peeled away, leaving a circle of raw pink against his dark skin. His upper body is wrapped in bandages. Melanie Merciel is with Longueuil Police.
We arrested a woman in her 40s. She could face the charges of assault, causing bodily harm, and armed assault.
The woman was released on a promise to appear in court. The boy's father alleges the woman said his son had been knocking on her door for the past 3 years. Impossible, Tewa Pierre Seni says. The family has only been in the neighborhood since January. I believe racism was involved, Seni says. She didn't go after the white kids, she targeted my black child. It hurts, the boy says, and I'm angry. His family says he'll forever be left with scars, a daily reminder of an attack they'd sooner wish to forget. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Longueuil, Quebec.
We're entering the final 4 days of the public inquiry into foreign interference, or at least this phase of it. Starting today, we'll hear testimony from members of Justin Trudeau's cabinet. First up, Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly and former Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what should we be watching for today?
Marcia, questions about gatekeeping keep emerging at this inquiry. Whether political staffers and senior officials are making the right decisions about passing on key intelligence upwards to their bosses. Although this phase of the inquiry is supposed to be focused on how to do better in the future, some of the testimony is still focused on accountability, such as why it took 54 days for a request from Canada's spy agency to begin surveillance on a former Ontario cabinet minister to be approved by former Public Safety Minister Bill Blair. Last evening's testimony from Blair's former Chief of Staff, Zita Astravas, didn't satisfy the lawyer for Conservative MP Michael Chong.
I put it to you, Madam, that the reason for the delay was simply this. Looking at the warrant, you saw in it that it was deeply concerned with the operations of your party and your government. You didn't want it to go ahead, and if it had to go ahead, you wanted to slow walk it. What do you say to that?
I can tell you that your assumptions are categorically false.
Liberal Michael Chan, the former provincial minister who's now deputy mayor in Markham, Ontario, he issued a statement yesterday afternoon accusing CSIS of using false evidence to obtain its wiretap and condemning leaks to the media, which he called the dissemination of proven lies. Commissioner Marie-Josée Ugg's challenge here is figuring out what recommendations she can make to avoid another mess like this in the future.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says trade between Canada and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations has nearly doubled since he first took office, but he still wants to expand.
While I've been encouraged by our progress on a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement, I remain highly focused on landing that deal in the coming year. A deal that will unlock billions of dollars in increased trade and countless community-building jobs that are the backbone of a strong middle class.
He told his colleagues at the ASEAN summit this morning Canada is also keen to collaborate on energy, specifically in the fields of nuclear power and renewables. China's trade tensions with the European Union could signal what's coming for Canada. On Friday, China imposed new provisional tariffs on European brandy. France says that is retaliation for EU tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Canada imposed its own tariff and could face the same backlash. Lisa Xing reports.
At a bar in Shanghai, owner Ting Liang says a hike in brandy prices might mean a change to the booze she stocks.
We don't want to charge people more. I don't think we can keep on using a very expensive brandy.
China has imposed provisional tariffs of up to 39% on European brandy imports, namely affecting French cognac. France is one of the countries that supported the EU imposing a similar tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. The retaliatory strike is unsurprising, says Nicholas Lamp, an international trade law professor at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Well, there's a long tradition in trade to hit industries which are very visible, but which are also industries which don't have a big economic impact in your own country.
Lamp says Canada needs to take note because there could be a big impact on other industries industries soon. Earlier this month, the federal government's 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs took effect, about twice as much as the European Union's.
I have no doubt that there will be a response from China. And it's actually amazing how measured the response from China has been so far. It has to hit back in order to essentially keep its bargaining chips.
Beijing has opened an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola, its exports to China last year worth $5 billion, giving industries and Ottawa pause about how much an escalating trade war would cost. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report News Anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
On a big, beautiful dock on the shores of the Winnipeg River. It's October, it's 21 degrees, and really the only logical thing to do is take a dip. So, here we go! Woo! It's cold! It's really cold! Woo! Woo! Woo!
Still haven't actually quite warmed up from that dip. I'll be perfectly honest. Sweater's on. It's 10 degrees out in Lactabani right now. But coffee's on here at Drifters, and I'm slowly but surely warming up. We're live here in Lactabani at Drifters. We actually have the owner here standing by. We're going to chat with him momentarily. Also coming up this hour on Information Radio, this half hour on Information Radio, we're going to meet Christine Paul, who works at the furniture thrift store here in Lactabani. She credits the local resource center and community's generosity with her journey to sobriety. We're going to hear that story coming up, brought to you by Chloe Friesen. Also, our local reporter, Emily Brash, she's been here since Saturday. She's going to give us an update on some of the stories she's been working on here in Lactabani. Come on by if you are in Lactabani area. We'd love to have you join us. Well, time now is 8:11. Let's check in with news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg tenant who went through an ordeal over asbestos testing during renovations at her rented home wants people to know the risks. Laura Chase became worried after conflicting test results at her home as she was preparing for those renos. Her property manager got negative results for asbestos, but then she did her own testing. It came back positive. Asbestos is carcinogenic and, if inhaled, can cause fatal illness. Fees charged to property owners for sending firefighters to vacant buildings may have done more harm than good. That is according to a new city report. The city issued a total of $1.5 million worth of fees, but has collected just a fraction of that. City staff now recommend lower fees, hoping more owners will come forward and pay them. We're going to hear some community response to that coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. Well, time now, it is 8:12. Let's check in with the weather now with Abby. How's it looking out there?
Yes, let me start with current temperatures where you are. You are currently at 8 degrees in Lactabani there, and then you'll be warming up to a high of 23. So Lactabani is one of those areas in the province that will be getting close to 25 today, though. For tonight, tell the folks out there they will be cooling down to 6. So some cool temperatures coming tonight for folks out there. Winnipeg at 10, we're going to be warm just like yesterday, but not lots of sunshine in the forecast. The sun will not really be too visible today. It will be mostly cloudy with light breeze picking up from the southwest this afternoon. We're expecting a high of 25, which is warmer than our usual for this time of the year. We're usually around at 12 degrees, but for today we warm up to 25. And then these cloudy conditions will stay with us all through the night, and we dip to 6, similar to folks in Lactabani. Other parts of the region, Thompson at 4, Thompson at 6, Churchill at 4, and down south we're seeing temperatures close to 9 degrees in Steinbach. Right now, Winnipeg at 10 degrees.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That's Abby Adiemi back in Winnipeg with Look at Your Weather. Chloe Friesen is here with us at Drifters, keeping an eye on the commute. Hello.
Yes, so I'm here in Lactabani, but I'm going to take us back to Winnipeg. So Mike called to say there's a collision on southbound Main at Mayfair. There are crews on scene, but it is causing major delays. Mike, who called the commuter line, says it's a parking lot right now, so you might want to avoid southbound Main at Mayfair. Thank you for that call, Mike. If you're seeing anything else or have any updates, give us a call, 204-788-3000. 9293.
So we are here live at Drifters Inn, right at the northern tip of Lac du Bonnet. It's right at the intersection, if you're wondering, at the Highway 11 and 313. And Lac du Bonnet, just to kind of set the scene here, we're kind of right on the edge of where the prairie kind of melds into the Shield here, and it's very beautiful, right on the western shore of the Winnipeg River, about 106 or so kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. And sitting with us now is the owner of Drifters Inn, Kylie Horvath. Hello there.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Thanks for having us here. Is it always this bustling on a Thursday morning?
Well, I hope so. Maybe it's because you guys are here. I don't know.
Oh, I doubt it. I heard this is the place to be. I know you've only owned this place for 3.5 years. Tell us how you came to come here.
Well, in 1997, my business partner at the time, we bought a hotel in Pinawa, which is a neighboring community here. So I kind of know this area, and my wife and I had a seasonal campsite out here for quite a few years at beautiful Granite Hills, and I just know this area, and I just fell in love with it. It's always felt like home out here. It's like driving here, I felt like I was going home. So that's kind of why we decided to try to purchase it, and we did, and it's been great. I love living here. It's like, what's there not to like out in Lac du Bonnet?
Yeah, it is beautiful out here. And who are the kind of folks who come through Drifters? Because there's a hotel, there's a lounge, and there's a restaurant here.
That's correct.
And people might be surprised, for there to be a motel aspect, a business argument for a motel. Who are the folks coming through Drifters?
Well, you know what? We get lots of contractors that are staying here, people that are working in the local industries. Like we have Cinnamine, or Tanco it's called, and there's lots of hydro generating stations in the area. So we get those type of people that are staying here. And in the summer, we get lots of fishermen from because they fly out of here, but the airport's about 5 minutes away, and it's Adventure Air, and they fly out to all their outposts. So then the Americans stay here for the night, and then they fly out in the morning. So we get lots of that business as well. So it's fun.
Apt descriptor, Drifters. Sound a lot of people kind of drifting in and out, hey?
Well, sure, yeah. There's lots of people that are coming in and out, and like in the summertime, you got to remember this area gets pretty busy in the summer because of all the cottagers, right? So this is just a handy place we try to make it a one-stop shop for everybody. They come here, we have a vendor here as well, so they can buy their beverages, and they can fill up hopefully and buy some bait and maybe a bag of chips if they want. So try to make it like a bag of ice, try to get it all put together all in one spot.
I imagine you don't have tons of spare time as a busy business owner here, but in your free time, what's your favorite thing to do around here in Lac du Bonnet?
What's my favorite thing to do around here in Lac du Bonnet? I honestly haven't had a lot of free time, but that's the truth. But you know what? Like, I don't have any of the toys that the locals do. Hopefully that'll change one of these days. But the watercrafting, and they lots of watercraft, and hopefully there's a good snowmobile season because the trails out here are very, very nice. They do such a good job taking care of the trails, and so hopefully we have a good snowmobile season, and hopefully I can get on the trails this year.
Well, Kylie, thanks so much. Let's get back to it.
All right, thanks for having me.
That's Kylie Horvath, owner of Drifters Inn here in Lac du Bonnet. Yeah, there's lots of other wonderful businesses here in town, and there's a really unique one here in downtown Lac du Bonnet, and it's a thrift store, but it's a bit more than that. And Chloe Friesen actually went there to check it out, and it got a really lovely story out of it.
Yeah, I had a great time. I went to Mrs. Lucci's. It's on 3rd Street in Lac du Bonnet, and it's much more than just a thrift store. For Christine Paul, in particular, it's a lifeline. The well-stocked shop of used clothing and furniture, it doubles as a resource center where people of all ages and backgrounds can find support. So I met Christine yesterday at Lucci's 2, which is the used furniture shop. First, I got a tour, and then we sat down for a chat with Tori Ferrens, who is the community outreach worker at Mrs. Lucci's Resource Center.
There is a computer for people to use that don't have access to internet or computers. And then Tori's office, the outreach resource worker, is right in there, that room there.
I guess through that door, that's the Lucci's 1? Is that the thrift store?
Yes.
When did you start coming to the resource center?
When I was pregnant with Presley, Yeah, about 15 years. She helps me with housing. She helps me with my disability and everything like that. Counseling, they offer counseling here for us.
What sort of impact has that made on your life?
Well, a lot, actually. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. If I didn't have Lucci's, I'd probably be lost than what I am now. Like, they help me with everything, dealing with life, work.
What does it mean to have a space like this in Lac du Bonnet?
Safe. I can come here or call any night and day if I'm going through anxiety or just can't deal.
What is it like seeing the community support a resource center like this?
Oh, it's amazing. I've never seen such a giving community. Like, I work at Mrs. Lucci's, and then people come in, and we try and help as much as they can. Like, families that need, like the Ukraine family that came in, we helped them with furniture and stuff like that. Actually, Lucci's helped put like kids in swimming lessons and just stuff that I can't afford, clearly, because I'm on low income.
So you say you work at Miss Lucci's. Is that the thrift store there?
Yeah, that's the second one, the furniture store.
Okay.
And I've been there for over a year, and just to help me get into the community, working with people to help me get out of my comfort zone, and because I deal with anxiety and depression on a daily, right? So yeah, and the customer and the people, everybody's so friendly, so it makes it really easy to work there.
Can you describe where we are now?
Oh, this is where I work. I make it happen here. The second, Mrs. Lucci's, we get the furniture, obviously electronics, plates, anything you need to like light fixtures. So we got 2 rooms and 2 garages full of donations.
Wow, 2 garages full.
Yep, and that's at Lucci's 3 because they have the 2 garages. But yeah, staff room filled with everything.
More donations.
More donations.
What do you sell most of? What do you really? Are you a good saleswoman? Like, what's flying off the shelves?
I think my personality just sells it. Yeah, everybody's awesome. I don't know, it's just whatever. They're like, oh, I'll be looking for something, and then they're like, oh, come to Lucci's, and it's always here. And we say, Lucci's gods have spoken. You'll want it, and it'll be there.
No, it's much more than a thrift store and a furniture store. What do you want people who live outside of Lac du Bonnet in Winnipeg and the rest of Manitoba? What do you think people need to know about this place?
Come on down, it's worth the trip.
You are a good saleswoman.
No, it's a great community. It's like a home. It's just everybody. I love it because it's so small that I feel safe with my kids, and everybody knows everybody, and we are one big happy community, eh?
Yeah. So, but I mean, we are really well supported by the community and other communities and our cottagers. So with donations, we get a lot of donations.
How would you describe your relationship after 15 years?
She's like a mother I never had. Yeah.
So what does it feel like to hear that?
It's good. When you work in a small community and you work with people, and I mean, I've been with Christine and her children forever. Yes, it is a close relationship. So if she needs a hug, she gets one. If she needs a kick in the pants, she gets that too.
I've had a lot of timeouts.
She's had a lot of timeouts. But I need to say this. Christine has been clean for 4 years, and she's worked very hard to get where she is. So I'm very proud of her. And that's what Lucci's is about, is giving people. We always say this. This is our motto. If you come in and you need a hug, we'll give you a hug. If you need a kick in the pants, we'll give you a kick in the pants. But we're always here and no judgment. And that's what Lucci's is. We're family.
That was Tori Ferrens. She's the community outreach worker at Mrs. Lucci's Resource Center in Lac du Bonnet. And we heard from Christine Paul, who has been coming to Mrs. Lucci's for support for over 15 years. She now works in the used furniture store, Lucci's 2.
And also, I love this story because it does speak to just how kind and welcoming everyone is. And you get that vibe wherever you go here.
And there's good stuff at that thrift store.
And
I
yes.
may have made a few purchases.
And also, hot fact, Lucci's is named after a soap opera star.
Apparently.
Yeah,
I found
there's
this
no
out.
actual Lucci living here.
No, it's named after a soap opera star of a soap opera that I have not seen, but, well, I'll have to do some digging.
Susan Lucci, I believe. I'm sure. Well, thank you very much for that, Chloe. We are here in beautiful Lac du Bonny this morning, and we've only been here for about 24 hours, and it's been a whirlwind, but it's been lovely meeting so many people. But CBC reporter Emily Brass has been lucky enough to be here since Saturday, meeting people, learning about the area, and taking in the sights. It's all part of our Communities in Focus project here in Lac du Bonny to get to know this place in Eastman. And she joins us now here in the dining room here at Drifters Inn. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Corey. And by the way, it's All My Children is the soap opera.
Okay, thank you.
And she was like everything in the 80s. Like people looked up to her. Like everyone wanted to be Erica Kane. That was her character. So just so you know.
And she lives on here in Lac du Bonny at the thrift store.
Yeah, right. I just saw her walk by.
This is your 6th day here in Lac du Bonny. What has stood out to you the most?
Well, as you've been touching on, of course, the people here are like remarkably friendly. You know, we all know small towns can be super friendly, but this one's outstanding. People coming up to say hi, offering us story ideas, telling us about, you know, the important people and organizations here. Even the housekeeper here at Drifters, Geraldine, knocked on my door the first morning I was here to introduce herself, and she even wrote out a whole list of contacts and helped me line up my first interview. So that's that kind of spirit we're getting here since we've been here.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. And what about the natural beauty? What have you seen here so far?
Well, I'm a big hiker and a walker, and, you know, I was blown away by some of the trails. They're really rocky since much of Lac du Bonny sits on pre-Cambrian shield, but I've got to shout out Blueberry Rock. It's pretty much like a perfect trail. You climb up a bunch of rocky slopes, but it never feels that hard. And then when you get to the top, you see this huge vista of sky and clouds, the forest with all that striking fall foliage, and then, of course, lots of water as you're looking down on the fluvial lake of Lac du Bonny on the Winnipeg River. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous walk, and, you know, just a little over an hour from Winnipeg.
That's amazing. And what about outside of town? What have you seen there?
Well, you know, yesterday I had a chance to visit the Karklin family farm. That's north of town in Latonia, which actually means Little Latvia. And the Karklins have been on that farm for 4 generations. They're part of Lac du Bonny's significant Latvian Canadian community. It's considered one of the biggest in the country. The Latvian ambassador to Canada even visited their farm a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, to find out more about this community. Apparently people back in the day in Latvia even knew Lac du Bonny, that's a place to go. There's tons of Latvians there if you want to go settle. So Reva Karklin and her Aunt Susan showed us around, including a historic barn that was built more than 100 years ago using hand-hewn logs, you know, chopped out of axes and dovetail joints, so there are no nails, and it's still standing, so just an incredible construction. We also visited a local museum to learn more about why so many Latvians ended up in Lac du Bonny, and we're going to put together a story on this unique cultural community.
And what other kind of stories are you working on too?
Well, you know, the rural municipality of Lac du Bonny has been growing considerably in recent years. The latest census showed it grew more than 14% between 2016 and 2021. So we'll be looking at how the RM and the town are working together to meet the demands of the growth. But it hasn't always been that way. In fact, the leaders of both local governments will tell you development in this area has been stagnant a long time because the two councils were butting heads and not working cooperatively for many, many years. But now the two councils are working on extending water and sewer lines out into the RM, where, you know, people have been living with boil water advisories for years, and a lot of people say that's because of that lack of cooperation. But, you know, now they're also working together on a tourism strategy, other development initiatives to help the community thrive. And later today we're going to meet with some community members who are working on building food security in the area through community gardens and the food bank. So lots of interesting stories to come.
Now, we've been navigating this all morning since we got here. And I grew up my whole life just calling it Lac du Bonny. But then we got here and we learned there's a bunch of people that call it Lac du Bonnet.
Yeah.
So I know you're digging into the question of the origin of the pronunciation of the name, because it seems like it's like 50-50 almost, Bonnet, Bonnie, what I've noticed at least.
Well, actually, if you spend a little time in town, you'll notice that there are 3 different ways to say it.
Oh, geez.
There's people who've lived here most of or even all of their lives, and they pronounce it different ways. There's Lac du Bonny, which of course you hear the most often, but also Lac du Bonnet and Lac du Bonnet.
Okay.
So we're trying to get to the bottom of why some people say it one way, others say it another. Sometimes even in the same sentence, you'll hear people go back from Bonnie to bonnet or bonnet. And anyways, we're getting locals to weigh in, including a historian who also has some surprising information on the origin of the name. He'll explain why he thinks most people have the story wrong. But on the name, some people avoid the question on how to say it just by calling it LDB, You'll hear that a lot.
I also
That's kinda...
I've seen lac dub as
yeah,
well.
Yeah,
I kind of like that one. Lac
I
dub.
say lactabee sometimes.
Oh, yeah, nice.
I don't know. Luckily, no one I've met minds how you say the name. They're just happy you dropped in to get to know their community.
I love that. Well, glad you're out here, and looking forward to seeing all the stories that you bring to the airwaves, Emily.
Thank you.
That's CBC's Emily Brass. She's a reporter with CBC Manitoba, and if you have a story, she's still here, so you could email her, emily.brass@cbc.ca. That's brass spelled like brass instruments. Well, thanks so much for tuning in today. We've been live today at Drifters Inn here in Lac du Bonnet, and as you can probably hear, it's been bustling all morning since they opened at 6 a.m. And looking forward to having some breakfast shortly here. We are live here with Chloe Friesen. I'm Corey Funk, and we've been really just really grateful to be here in town, and big thanks as well to Kylie Horvath, the owner, who's had us by and been really welcoming and making this show happen. Time now for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. Still feeling summery, a nice mild start to the day. We're headed to a high of 25 this afternoon. Enjoy it because we're 10 degrees cooler tomorrow. A Winnipeg tenant is calling on Manitoba to bring in licensing of companies offering asbestos testing. Laura Chase became worried during renovations to her rented home. Her property manager got negative results for asbestos, but when she had her own testing done, it came back positive.
Clearly, the current situation is unsafe. It was unsafe in my case, and the fact that there's so little accountability because there is no license. A person can't lose a license that they don't have in the first place.
This year, BC became Canada's first province requiring licensing of employers doing asbestos abatement work. Chase says Manitoba should do the same. The province says it is part of a review of the Workplace Safety and Health Act. The Manitoba government's introduced a bill to regulate sales of long-bladed weapons like machetes and swords. It's welcome news for the manager of a Winnipeg store that sells knives and cutlery. Logan Blade says cutting-edge cutlery already securely stores long-bladed knives and vets its buyers. But he says there might be some growing pains for those who aren't already doing that.
Too many stores, local department stores, dollar stores, unfortunately just have them out in the open, and there is nobody supervising the sale of them whatsoever.
The bill calls for retailers to store long-bladed weapons to prevent people from getting them without asking for help. And to also prohibit sales to minors and to require ID from buyers. A new city report says Winnipeg's latest effort to keep up with vacant building fires doesn't appear to be working. Last year, the city started billing property owners for the costs of sending fire crews to fires in their buildings. The city issued a total of $1.5 million worth of fees. However, it's collected just a fraction of that. City staff now recommend lower fees, hoping more owners will pay them. But Daryl Warren doesn't buy that. He lives in William White, an area with some of the highest numbers of vacant building fires. He says the city is being weak on this issue.
They're backing down from these guys. And as soon as you send that message to somebody that has money that, hey, we're backing down because we don't want to go to war with you, well, you're going to go ahead and take that as a win.
The city may write off about $900,000 in fees issued last year. The fire paramedic service stopped issuing new fees in December following complaints from property owners. Manitoba's opposition accuses the province of meddling in the training of paramedics. The College of Paramedics has dropped a requirement for all potential trainees to take a university-level course in anatomy and physiology. It says the requirement, in place for just a year, was preventing interested applicants from coming forward. Progressive Conservative health critic Kathleen Cook says the NDP government may have pressured the college to make the change.
They could have added more paramedic training seats. They could have offered return of service agreements. They could have made the profession more appealing rather than watering down training requirements.
Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera denies the province pressured the college, but says they're in favor of removing unnecessary roadblocks for Manitobans who want to study to become paramedics. Manitoba's Minister of Consumer Protection says fines against a Winnipeg landlord accused of illegal evictions aren't severe enough. $9,000 in fines have been issued to the owner of 285 College Avenue after dozens of tenants were forced out back in July. $1,000 a unit is the maximum under the law. Lisa Naylor says one challenge has been finding tenants willing to take part in the investigation. 9 tenants have participated so far.
If there's any tenants listening today that at this late time would like to have their voice heard and to participate in the investigation that may have previously chosen not to, we would welcome that.
Naylor says the province may look at increasing fines going forward. Artificial intelligence is taking over security checks in some Winnipeg venues. Canada Life Centre implemented AI-based security screening at all its entrances for the start of this year's hockey season. Dawn House at True North Sports and Entertainment says it will get people into the venue quicker. And guests won't have to empty their pockets unless the AI detects something that isn't allowed in the building.
The first time that we used it for a couple of concerts in September leading up to our preseason games, and then we used the system for our first 3 preseason games. So we've had an opportunity to work out some of the kinks and get people used to it.
Princess Auto Stadium also started using AI scanners at their gates this season, and Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre did a pilot project using AI scanners this past summer. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is Heather Wells at our CBC News Desk. Chloe Friesen, you are here in Lactabani with us, but you're keeping an eye on the commute. What's going on?
Yes, I'll remind folks we got a call about a collision on southbound Main at Mayfair. There were crews on site when we got the call, but it's causing major delays, so you might want to avoid southbound Main at Mayfair.
Thank you very much.
No
Abby.
problem.
Yeah, cloudy skies will dominate most of the regions in the province today, with highs ranging from 9 in Churchill to 25 down south, Winnipeg, Morris, Brandon, Gimli, Dauphin. We will be seeing that. Overnight temperatures will be deep into lows between -1 in Thompson and 7 in Steinbach. Though we will have warm temperatures today. Lactabani is currently at 8 degrees, warming up to 23. Enjoy the warm temperature today, because tomorrow will be cooler than today.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who helped put together today's show. Kevin Ipatebo, May McKillop, Abby Adiemi, Chloe Friesen, Nadia Kidway, Marcy Marcusa, who laid much of the groundwork for today's show and was hoping to host, but she got sick. So thank you so much, Marcy. Emily Brass as well. All the APs who helped out, Leif Larson, our senior producer, and Nelly Gonzalez, our show producer. And thank you, Lactabani, for having us here, opening your hearts, your homes, and your businesses to us, and letting us tell your story. I'm Corey Funk, and hope whatever you get up to today, you do something you love with the people you love. The Current is next.